Hare Krishna. Welcome to this episode of Harināma Cintāmaṇi, and this is the last chapter, Nāma Bhajan. I would like to translate, I would translate this into English as supreme instructions on chanting the holy name. So this is very, very technical, very detailed, and the English also is quite of a much higher standard than the rest of the chapters. So we need to seek, and this is the highest instructions on chanting the holy name, and we absolutely need to seek the blessings of Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Haridas Thakur, and the entire Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, and of course Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Śraddhā Kṛṣṇa, and all the Vaishnavas, to properly understand this important subject matter, which is the essence of our whole movement. Sankirtan movement is all based on the chanting of the holy name and how to accept this chanting in our lives and what are the progressive stages. It's like a perfect summary and conclusion to this whole very, very important book of Harināma Cintāmaṇi. So we'll say the Mangalacharan prayers and we will proceed further. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnānatimirandhasya Jnānāñjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we will proceed to the final chapter of this Harināma Cintāmaṇi book composed by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and this is the most voluminous of all the chapters. This is very, very long chapter, and we need to, I don't know how fast we can go through it, because it's very, very highly elevated subject, and it is like the culmination of this book, and that's why I translated it as, I announced this class as Supreme Instructions on the Holy Name. So we need to really be attentive to all the details of this, and the English is also quite elevated standard, so it takes a little more attention to assimilate the subject here, and we therefore pray to Srila Prabhupada that we can understand what Bhaktivinoda Thakur has explained here. And if you can kindly share this live stream with all the devotees in our groups, again to just remind them so they can join it. And as I said in the beginning of this session, this is the essence of our movement, the chanting of the holy name, and how to accept this chanting in our lives is very nicely delineated by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in this book, Harināma Cintāmaṇi. And this chapter especially is the culmination, is the summum bonum of this entire book. So alright, so let's proceed with the descriptions here. Nāma Bhajana. Prema alone is the purpose of the life of Jivas. Bhava, which is the soul's feeling, develops into Prema. Turning their face towards Krishna, the more Jivas progress, the more they approach the temple of Prema. Thus, in considering the candidacy for Prema, we meet at the outset with two kinds of circumstances. So, the other day also, I did not actually show this verse, which, of course, I expect you to understand. Ādau Śraddhā. So, CC Madhya 23.14 and 15. Ādau Śraddhā tatah sadhu sanghota bhajana kriya tato nartha nivrittih syat tato nishtha ruchis tatah atha saktis tato bhavas tatah prema bhyudanchati sadhakānāmayam premnah pradurbhave bhavet kramah. So, when we're talking about bhava and prema and all these things, this is the chronology we should know that it is being referred to. So, this is the progressive advancement of a devotee from the beginning stages all the way to the highest. So, in the beginning there must be faith, ādau Śraddhā. Then one becomes interested in associating with pure devotees, sadhu sangha. Thereafter one is initiated by a spiritual master and executes the regulative principles under his orders. This is bhajana kriya. Thus one is freed from all unwanted habits and becomes unwanted habits. So that is anartha nivritti, and becomes firmly fixed in devotional service. That is nishtha. Thereafter one develops taste, ruchi, and attachment, asakti. This is the way of sadhana bhakti, the execution of devotional service according to regulative principles. Gradually emotions intensify. That is bhava. And finally there is an awakening of love, and that is prema. This is the gradual development of love of Godhead for the devotee interested in Krishna consciousness. So, when we talk about these topics of prema and bhava, that is the topmost, the top two. The highest stage is prema, and just before that is bhava. Prema alone is the purpose of the life of Jivas. Bhava, which is the soul's feeling, develops into prema. Turning their face towards Krishna, the more Jivas progress, the more they approach the temple of prema. Thus, in considering the candidacy for prema, we meet at the outset with two kinds of circumstances. One is an intense longing for the unattained prema. The other is a stage when the pedestal of prema is already reached. Who are the candidates for prema? Those who have an intense longing for prema which they have not attained yet, and for those who are already at the stage of prema, they can access this prema. And those who have intense longing, and that's why it is said, laulyam api mulyam ekalam Krishna bhakti rasabhavita mati. I think it's 870, Madhya 870. Krishna bhakti rasa bhavita kriyatam yadi kutopi labhyate tatra laulyam api mulyam ekalam janma koti sukritairna labhyate. Pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness cannot be had even by pious activity in hundreds and thousands of lives. It can be attained only by paying one price, that is, intense greed to obtain it. If it is available somewhere, one must purchase it without delay. This is the only qualification required to attain this love of Godhead. What is that? Intense greed. So those who have this intense greed but they do not have prema yet, so that is the candidate who can access this level of prema. And the one who is already in prema, of course, he can also access the level of prema. There is no higher stage beyond the latter one, which is when prema is already reached. An incessant rasa in an undivided unique tattva of that region. Those devotees with an utter craving for prema but who are still on the way to it are again divided into two classes according to their love of seclusion or bhakti. The kind of English that is being used here. Bhakti means preaching, to interact with people. Let's just confirm that. What is the English definition? Okay. Bhakti. Oh, it is an Indian.
Bhakti.
Okay. Basti means is actually Basti. So it's Indian slang of English. A slum area or shanty town. So, in other words, what is being referred to here is seclusion or Basti. This means one who slum or a shanty town or whatever it is. That means it's a crowded area. So that's the whole point. So those devotees with an utter craving for Prema, but who are still on the way to it, are again divided into two classes according to their love of seclusion or bhakti. So either seclusion or among people, to be in people. The first are called Viviktānandīs. Another name for them is Bhajanānandīs, who just worship the Lord in seclusion. There is, or Vivikta. Na Vivikta sano bhavet. You know that. Vivikta means far away or separated from people. So Viviktānandīs, who are close followers of approved usages, means they strictly follow all the rules and regulations. The others are called Goṣṭhyānandīs. The spelling here is wrong. Goṣṭhi. G-O-S with a dot below, T with a dot below, and H, and then Y, and then Anandīs. Goṣṭhyānandīs, and are ever happy in preaching. So they are following the rules very strictly, and they are into seclusion and then following everything very, very rigidly. And they immerse themselves in the meditation of Krishna like that. Viviktānandīs. The others are Goṣṭhyānandīs, and they are ever happy in preaching. Deep meditation on Godhead is the discipline of Premi Bhaktas. Deep meditation on Godhead. And glorifying or singing the name of Krishna is their preaching. In the state when there is an intense longing for the unattained Prema, the Premi Bhaktas are exclusively devoted to Krishna. Utter self-surrender marks them out. So their chief quality is utter self-surrender. The Srimad Bhagavatam and the Gita have very highly eulogized such refugees. Refugees means one who has taken refuge. So one who has taken the refuge at the lotus feet of Krishna is a refugee at the lotus feet of Krishna. Just like refugees are usually one who take refuge in another country. You know, they did not have shelter, and then they took refuge in some other shelter or some other country which offers them shelter. So if we become devotees, they are refugees at the lotus feet of Krishna. So the Bhagavatam and the Gita have very highly eulogized such refugees, like 4:10. What is that? Vidaraga bhayakrodha manmaya mamupashritaha bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhavamagataha. I mean, actually extensively, honestly, many verses throughout the Bhagavad Gita also, of course Bhagavatam also, eulogize the high position of such refugees or devotees. If a devotee does not take absolute shelter under the cool shade of the gracious feet of Krishna, why speak of Prema? Why speak of Prema? So now we are discussing the subject matter of Prema, and I am utterly unqualified to actually speak on this. But we are, reading the work because we are interested in the subject and we want to actually progress towards this. And we have to be sincere in our endeavors and know what is the actual standard. So if you are not interested, if a devotee does not take absolute shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna, cool shade of the gracious feet of Krishna, Why speak of Prema? He remains quite in the dark even about Bhava. What to speak of Prema? Bhava is also not even understood by him. It's true, actually, these emotions of spiritual ecstasy, they are not understood by materialists. A self-surrendering devotee should only accept things that are favorable to Prema Bhakti and should deny everything, whatever it may be, that is antagonistic or unfavorable to it. So, anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam. So, everything that is favorable has to be accepted, even if it is difficult to accept. And everything that is antagonistic to devotional service should be rejected, even though one may not otherwise want to reject it. Such a devotee believes that Krishna is the only protector, rakshishyati iti vishvasa, that nothing else and no one else but Krishna can save or protect him. He has not the least doubt that Krishna alone protects all. So this is Goptritve Varanam Tatha. So they accept him as the guardian or master. This is important. Only Krishna alone can protect anyone. There may be many agents of protection, now, all of them will work only on the sanction of Krishna. It does not mean that a devotee does not take any care or something like that. A devotee takes care of the body, understanding well that the body is an instrument given by Krishna to him. Although he has asked for it for his sense gratification, it's a worthy tool with which we can actually revive our Krishna consciousness by engaging it in Krishna's service. So because it is an instrument in Krishna's service, he takes good care of the body, but does not get engrossed in it and misidentify the soul with the body. That is the ideal situation. That is a real devotee, realized devotee. That's how he attends to the needs of the body. He is not particularly attached to the body at all, but he is not entirely detached in the sense that he does not want to use it for his personal gratification, but he very well understands that it's an instrument in Krishna's service, and therefore it requires upkeep. For that he just takes care. But he understands that ultimately Krishna alone is the protector. And in fact, the more later on we will read, the more he gets immersed in the Krishna Bhakti, the more he will forget his bodily existence. And that is the test of advancement. How much we are remembering our bodily existence and how much we are not. At the present moment, we only know our bodily existence. We don't even know who we are properly, although we have heard it many, many times. So such devotee believes that Krishna is the only protector, that nothing else or no one else but Krishna can save or protect him. He has not the least doubt that Krishna alone protects all. Devotees firmly and sincerely believe themselves to be very humble and insignificant, karpanya. The faith of an earnest and exclusive devotee is that he himself can do nothing, that not even a straw moves without the will of Krishna. This is the faith of an earnest and exclusive devotee. Exclusive devotee means he only worships Krishna. He does not worship anybody else. Of course, he worships the Guru, but not any demigods. Faith of an earnest and exclusive devotee is that he himself can do nothing. He has faith. Like you see, the Western philosophy, especially nowadays, this leftist philosophy, is that, oh, you can do it, it's entirely, you. But a devotee has complete faith that he can do nothing. Nothing he can do. Not even a straw moves without the will of Krishna. So he always knows that Krishna is the prime mover of everything, and one prays that Krishna use him as an instrument in his mission. And in that mood he engages, considering it as a great privilege rather than an entitlement. Devotional service is a privilege. It's not an entitlement. So we have to beg for it, we have to yearn for it, we have to earn it, we have to learn it. So these things, it is not something which we can take for granted. It is very easy only because it is very natural to the soul, because that's the constitutional position. But the difficulty is that we choose not to identify ourselves as eternal servants of Krishna. And as long as that does not happen, or to the proportion that does not minimize, the difficulty we will face proportionately. The more we realize that we are servant of Krishna, the lesser there will be a hindrance in. That's why ahayatuki apratihata. Apratihata means there is no material condition that can check it. But why? Why do we experience so many blockages in our execution of devotional service? Because we are not doing it with full surrender. If we surrender completely, there is no situation where one cannot serve Krishna. We only end up not serving Krishna because of our lack of self-surrender to Krishna and our overindulgence in the material situation, fleeting material situation, which we think it is very important when we are engrossed. But only a person who is realized can understand that actually it is not so important as we think it is. Extremely self-surrendered devotees prefer to most exclusively embrace Sri Nāma to every other feature of devotion. So they just want to chant the holy name. They prefer to most exclusively embrace Sri Nāma, that means the holy name, to every other feature of devotion. So they prefer chanting than to every other feature of devotion. It's not that we can imitate this stage. This is called extremely self-surrender, like Haridas Thakur. We cannot imitate, so we have to now, because we are restless, we have to engage in all kinds of activities. They have a more intense appetite for singing and meditating upon the holy name than for anything else. Of all the means of bhajana or worship, the name of Bhagavan is most purely spiritual. Of all the means of bhajan, the name of Bhagavan is most purely spiritual. In describing the absolute duties, Sri Hari Bhakti Vilas has spoken of the glories of chanting and contemplating the holy name as the best. It has been given the foremost place. Sri Hari Bhakti Vilas is a instructional manual for Vaishnava lifestyle, written by Sanatana Goswami. Now, the name is the most pure, and let me just show you this verse. Antya. This is also spoken, by Haridas Thakur. 362. Tam nirvyajam bhajagunanidhe pavanam pavananam Śraddhā rajjanmatiratitarām uttama shlokamaulim Prodhyannantah karanakuhare hantayan Nāma bhānor Ābhāsopi kṣapayati maha patakadvantarāshim. O reservoir of all good qualities, just worship Sri Krishna, the purifier of all purifiers. Pavitram paramam bhavan. The most exalted of the personality is worshipped by choice poetry. Worship him with a faithful, unflinching mind, without duplicity, and in a highly elevated manner. Śraddhā rajyan, with great faith. Thus worship the Lord, whose name is like the sun, for just as a slight appearance of the sun dissipates the darkness of the night, so a slight appearance of the holy name of Krishna can drive away all the darkness of ignorance that arises in the heart due to greatly sinful activities performed in previous lives. So, you see, this is Pavanam Pavananam, purifier of all purifiers. So that is Krishna, and that is his name also. Nāma Cintāmaṇi Krishna's Chaitanya Rasavigraha Purno Shuddho Nityamukto Abhinnatvan Nāma Nāminoho. So we will get to more descriptions of this holy name. In describing the absolute duties, the Sri Hari Bhakti Vilas has spoken of the glories of chanting and contemplating the holy name as the best. it has been given the foremost place. The highest religious activity is chanting the holy name. Krishna therefore says in the Bhagavad Gita 10:25, Yajnanam japa yajñosmi. Of all types of sacrifice, the chanting of the holy name is the highest. The Shastras declare that there is not the least difference between Krishna and Krishna's name, because the real nature of his name is spiritual. The holy name manifests himself as the Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha of Krishna, the conscious form of all spiritual mellows. It is the abode of all spiritual loving relationships, the holy name. Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. It is the form of all transcendental mellows. That means everything, all the entire feature of love of Krishna. And when we say name, form, qualities, pastimes, entourage, these are all in order. When one chants the name and eventually becomes perfect, then he understands the form, then he understands the qualities, then he understands the pastimes. In this way it goes on. In this way the Dhamma. And in this way he realizes fully everything about Krishna. And all that is included in the name is just that how much ever we are engrossed in it, that much it will be revealed to us. How much we advance in this respect of, doing it with utmost concentration and utmost devotion. And it's not to be achieved overnight. It can only be achieved by constant chanting. Even though we are not on that stage, far away from this stage, just by constant chanting, all these things will come. And of course, reading. Why we are reading this? Because then we will understand the glories of the name. Later on, that is also explained. The holy name is not just the alphabets. It is the deep imports which will only be revealed by a pure devotee. And that, when we understand all of this and take the holy name, that is the real acceptance of the holy name. So all that we will learn later on. For now, you see, the holy name manifests himself as the Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha of Krishna. Those who desire to realize the form of Krishna and the form of the holy name must try to realize their own Cit-Svarūpa. What is our own position? We must know what we are in the spiritual world, what is our relationship with Krishna. Of course, this is not to be imitated, it's a very highly elevated situation. The practicer of Bhakti can never be dexterous in his adoration of God so long as he does not realize spiritual truth. So how can he attain his object of pursuit? The attainment of an absolute conception of spiritual truths causes the amelioration of Bhajana. So that means, amelioration means improve or enhance. So the attainment of an absolute conception of spiritual truths causes the amelioration of Bhajan. So when we attain our real form, our real identity in the spiritual world, then of course the worship will be way more enhanced. Here we shall say something on this subject. Many a time we have pointed out in the Chaitanya Shikshamrita. So this is a book written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Chaitanya Shikshamrita. So he is referring to that book. Many a time we have pointed out in the Chaitanya Shikshamrita with quotations from the Shastras that every Jīva is a spiritual molecule, that the residence of Krishna is a spiritual kingdom, that Krishna is a spiritual sun, that devotion to Krishna is a spiritual inclination, and that Krishna's name is Chid Rasa Vigraha. Now, we venture to show the relation between spirit and those devotees who are extremely anxious for Prema. And then we shall show the means to the attainment of the highest bliss of the soul. So, the situation of Krishna, his residence, his spiritual kingdom, the Jīva, and the devotion to Krishna, and Krishna's name, Chid Rasa Vigraha, or Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. So now we venture to show the relation between the spirit, that means the Jīva, and those devotees who are extremely anxious for Prema. And then we shall show the means to the attainment of the highest bliss of the soul. If we have spiritual merit earned in previous births, transcendental felicity will be enkindled in our heart. So felicity means, if I am not wrong, devotion, I think. Let's see. Intense happiness, ecstasy. transcendental ecstasy will be enkindled in our heart. If we have spiritual merit earned in previous births, transcendental felicity will be enkindled in our heart. So that is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter, 41 to 45. So if, from Purvabhyasena, so from previous lives, one may, continue, and then one may have very elevated status of Bhakti. That means he has done in his previous life already Bhakti. We have no appetite, ruchi, for the knowledge of Brahman. So if one is spiritually meritorious, highly meritorious, then he will have no ruchi, no taste for the knowledge of Brahman, which is restricted to realization of mere chit only. Sat, chit, ananda. Only chit feature is realized in the Brahman realization. And in the Paramatma realization, only chit and sat. Actually, sat is also kind of realized in the Brahman. But sat, chit, there is a very little bit of ananda, but just nothing compared to the ananda of the devotional life. Even in the, Paramatma situation, one understands sat and chit, but still ananda is, elusive. But in the Bhagavan feature, one fully experiences all three features in complete fullness. We have no appetite or ruchi for the knowledge of Brahman, which is restricted to a realization of mere chit only, for spiritual sportive pastimes have no place in it. Spiritual sportive pastimes or leelas are completely in the, are manifestations of the pleasure potency of the Lord, which is Hladini Shakti. The savior of the Iron Age, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, declares the Vedas to be the only judge and reveals their 9 prameyas or subject matters. There is a broad discussion on it in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Vedas have proved Jivas to be spiritual atomic parts of the deity or Krishna. Jivas are like rays from the sun, Krishna. So the spiritual form of the Jivas must be identified with the spiritual form of Godhead. But the difference lies in the fact that Krishna may be compared to the full sun, while the Jivas is innumerable rays. Krishna is, basically this is mentioning qualitative oneness and quantitative difference. Achintya bheda bheda tattva. Krishna is Lord of Lords, the Jivas are his eternal servants. There is no denying the fact that the residential home of Krishna is in the Paravyoma, or the spiritual sky, or Goloka, which is all spiritual. Vaikuntha, Chit Jagat, etc. all refer to that spiritual region. The Vajasaneya Upanishad speaks of the form of Krishna to be purely spiritual. The Shvetashvatara Upanishad describes the eternal powers of Krishna. So Vajasaneya Upanishad speaks of the form of Krishna and explains that it is purely spiritual. Shvetashvatara Upanishad describes the eternal powers of Krishna, who is superior to the higher, best and higher than the highest. So in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad we have that famous verse, Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. This is actually about his energies, about his powers. Shakti. Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. The Mundaka Upanishad shows Bhakti to the Chidrasa and coming to conceive Krishna to be the life of lives. The wise, after discarding all garrulity, dry wisdom and vain arguments, dive deep to see the bottom of their soul. This is very high level English here. Let's see what is garrulity. Excessive talkativeness, especially on trivial matters. Gossip. So, discarding all garrulity means all kind of prajalpa. And especially on trivial matters. What is a trivial matter? The more we realize the importance of spiritual life, the more we understand that everything material is trivial. It may be very big in the material sense, in the material context, but for a spiritualist, it is very trivial matter. And there is a nice verse in the Mukundamala Stotram. I have shown this a few times. You see, Prithvi Renuranū Payamsi Kanika Phalguh Sphulingo Laghus Tejo Nishvasanam Maruttanutaram Randhram Susukshmam Nabha Kshudra Rudra Pitamaha Prabhritayah Kitah Samastah Sura Drishte Yatra Satarako Vijayate Shri Padadhuli Kana. So once we have attained Krishna, this is what happens. Once our Savior has been seen, the whole earth becomes no greater than a speck of dust. And how important is a speck of dust? It is trivial, and who cares? Just one just wipes off the dust from one's table or one's, chair. So nobody cares for a speck of dust. But you see how now big war is going on in Eastern Europe, and similarly wars have been going on for all time in different parts of the world. Now, for a little bit of land, they give up their lives, valuable human lives, which can give them eternal life in return, if they use it properly. They lose those lives just fighting for a piece of land. But here it is said the whole earth becomes no greater than a speck of dust. It's trivial. It's not very important matter for a devotee. All the waters of the ocean become mere droplets. People find big things. They fish there. They find oil there. They build their defense systems in the waters, ships and submarines and all of that. For the devotee, all waters of the ocean become mere droplets. The totality of fire becomes a minute spark. Countries are hoarding huge amounts of nuclear weapons, which is nothing but fire. They consider it very important to their defense, fire. And of course, it is used in useful ways also, fire, like cooking, like keeping ourselves warm in winter, especially in cold countries, and and even combustion of engine, moving of vehicles. The whole transport system is based on, especially in the fuel powered vehicles are all based on this combustion, which is fire. So much use of fire, and then people are using it for self-defense, the country's defense, nuclear weapons and other weapons, which are all firearms. The totality of fire becomes a minute spark. Who cares? The winds become just a faint sigh. And the expanse of space becomes a tiny hole. If there is a small hole in your wall in your room, would you really care and explore with a microscope and explore the ants and follow their path and see where they're going, investigate the whole thing? Would you bother? Nobody bothers. So the scientists are very fascinated by this whole space, and they're building rockets and so much hype around this whole things. So we as devotees should be grounded in the real facts of the Shastra and understand that actually the Lord is the only subject matter worthy of hearing, and everything else actually is superficial and trivial. So therefore everything, however important it may be, is actually a gossip. However, the devotee knows that people in general are involved in this gossip, and therefore to bring their attention to Krishna, he might sometimes address those issues and brings them to the real perspective of Krishna conscious perspective. For example, scientists have been saying that life comes from matter. They still think so. And Prabhupada addressed that. Prabhupada addressed the moon landing theory, moon landing hoax. Now these are all trivial things, right? Like earth or moon or who. It's like a speck of dust, who cares? Devotee doesn't care. But people care. So the devotee addresses that topic and brings them to Krishna. So for that reason, he may seemingly engage in worldly situation. Like even Srila Prabhupada, if you see his purports or even his Back to Godhead magazines, especially in the beginning years, he started his Back to Godhead in 1944 when the World War was still in full swing, the Second World War. and he started the Back to God at that time. So that in those articles, if you see, he was addressing the United Nations, the failure of the United Nations, and all kinds of war and peace, which are worldly things. But the thing is, that is where it all starts, and then it goes on higher. Like if you see Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, where did he start? You are not the body. That's the starting point. He's starting at the place where the body is there. So body is, you can say it is gossip, but it's not, because it is identifying what is reality and what is falsity, and separating them, and then making it very clear. There are two things here, don't mix them up and think that you are the material body. No, you are not. You are separate from this material body, and the material body is existing for a time being, but you are eternal. So this is called Atma Tattvam. And if you see, many examples in the shlokas are derived from worldly examples, like whatever is happening around us. There are so many examples. Like in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there are, I think, 6 or 7 verses which have an analogical, which draw an analogy from a worldly thing. For example, Yada samharate chayam kurmongani vasarvashaha ahankara vimod, indriyani indriyarthebhyas tasya prajna pratisthita. So the tortoise, how the tortoise withdraws its limbs and manifests them when it is required. So a yogi who is a perfected yogi is compared to the tortoise, in the sense that he can manifest his senses and unmanifest them whenever he wants. So he engages with this world with his jnana and karmendriyas, that means the knowledge acquiring senses and the working senses, when it is required for Krishna's service. And when not required for Krishna's service, he just withdraws into his shell, and he remains in that shell meditating on Krishna. So, but he has no particular interest in this world. His interest is to get those people who are interested in this world, to get them out of that and get them to Krishna. So if you have to save someone from a blind well, you have to let down the rope into the well first. So that does not mean you are interested in the well. You are interested in saving the person from the well. So the devotee may engage in topics related to this material world, but he is not interested in the material world, because his interest is to bring those people who are interested in those topics, take them out and get their interest on Krishna. So that we should understand that also. The winds become just a faint sigh, the expanse of space becomes a tiny hole. Great lords like Rudra and grandfather Brahma become insignificant, and all the demigods become like small insects. Who cares for a cockroach? Nobody cares for Indra. A devotee never cares. Whereas here in this world, what to speak of Indra, who is a heavenly king, ordinary little bit boss, with little bit higher influential people, people kowtow to them, and then they beg for favors. They become their sycophants, their flatterers, just to get some favors from them. So the demigods are nothing but such influential people in a much higher realm, at a much higher degree. So it is the same thing as flattery. There's a demigod worship. So the devotee is not interested in any of them. Of course he respects them. He respects. But he does not, give them very much importance. And all the demigods become like small insects. Indeed, even one particle of dust from our Lord's feet conquers all. So coming back to this point here, the Lord's residence is in the Paravyoma Goloka, and in the Vajasena Upanishad, the form of Krishna is mentioned. Shvetashvatara Upanishad, the powers of Krishna are mentioned. The Mundaka Upanishad shows Bhakti to the Chid Rasa, and coming to conceive Krishna to be the life of lives, the wise, after discarding all garrulity, dry wisdom. Garrulity means talking about mundane subject matters. Dry wisdom means impersonal spiritual subject matters. And vain arguments, taking party sides of this or that. Dive deep to see the bottom of their soul. They penetrate through these layers of distractions, of dry wisdom, garrulity, and vain arguments, and all the things that come to distract us. They attract us, but actually they distract us from the real goal of life. Sometimes it may be attract means positively or negatively. It can attract our attention. Attract means our attention is diverted from Krishna, whether by happiness or by distress or by anxiety. That's why it is said matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhadaha. Why? That means, what is the meaning of that verse? Just tolerate sukha and dukkha. It's like summer and winter. We tolerate. So dukkha we should tolerate, but sukha also we should tolerate, because it is a distraction after all. And coming to conceive Krishna to be the life of lives, the wise, after discarding all garrulity, dry wisdom and vain arguments, dive deep to see the bottom of their soul. So they are fully absorbed in this Atma Tattva, this subject matter. They, after realizing the deity by dint of pure intuition, run after devotion. So they realize the form of Krishna, and then they, by the dint of pure intuition, run after devotion. He who does this, that means they vehemently and vigorously take to the path of bhakti. He who does this is a Brahmana, that is a Vaishnava devotee of Krishna. Such has been shown to be the nature of bhakti or devotion. As the Chandogya Upanishad states, O Maitreya, the soul alone is to be seen, heard, reflected, meditated upon, and realized by spiritual organs. All is then known to us beyond any doubt. That soul, Krishna, is dearer than one's son, dearer than wealth, for he is omniscient. Now here references are being made to all the kinds of Upanishads here. Vajasaneya, what is that? Vajasaneya Upanishad, Svetashvatara Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, now Chandogya Upanishad. It is just quoted here because many impersonalists, they think that these Upanishads are meant for impersonal realization, but here references are being made to these Upanishads to prove that Krishna's form, Krishna's powers or his Shakti, and Bhakti. Mundaka Upanishad, there is Bhakti, and then there is Chandogya Upanishad. Again, this emphasis is on Krishna. So all the Nāma, what is that? Nāma, Rūpa, Guna, Dhama, all these things, name, form, qualities, pastimes, entourage, and all these things are stated in the Upanishads. So that is the point that is being also mentioned here, also being stressed here. So we have to, just like this verse from Mukundamala Stotram, Shatrochhedaika mantram Sakalam Upanishad Vakya Sampujya mantram Samsarochheda mantram Samuchita Tamasaha Sangha Niryana mantram Sarvaishwariyaika mantram Vyasana Bhujaga Sandashta Santrana mantram Jihve Shri Krishna mantram Japa Japa Satatam Janma Safalya mantram Sakalam Upanishad Vakya Sampujya mantram. Sakalam Upanishad, all the Upanishads, the statements, Vakya, the statements in all the Upanishads, they are actually worshipping the holy name of Krishna. Shri Krishna mantram. Jihve Shri Krishna mantram. So this Shri Krishna mantram is being glorified in all the Upanishads, and it destroys all our enemies. Our enemies are not anybody else but our own lust, anger, greed, and all these things. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. This is our real enemies. Samsarochheda mantram. Uchcheda means uproots this samsara. Samuchita tamasaha sangha niryana mantram. The dense darkness of this ignorance of this material world is dispelled by just the chanting of the Krishna mantra. Sarvaishvarya Mantram, Sarva Aishvarya Eka Mantram, the mantra which contains all the opulences, because Bhagavan is Krishna and the name is not different from him. Bhagavan means the possessor of all opulences. The name also has all the opulences. Nāma Cintāmaṇi Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purno Siddho Nitya Mukto Abhinnatvan Nāma. Purna means it's Shadaishvarya Purna. That means full in all six opulences. Shadaishvarya Purna. So Sarvaishvarya Mantram Vyasana Bhujagasan Dashta Santrana Mantram. Vyasana means the material miserable conditions, the distresses of this material world. Bhujaga means snake. Sandashta Santrana Mantram. It is the antidote, anti-venom to the snake of the material distress. All distresses will be gone just by chanting. Vyasana Bhujaga Sandashta Santrana Mantram Jihve Shri Krishna Mantram. On the tongue, the mantram, the Shri Krishna mantram, please japa satatam. Always chant, always keep the name of Krishna, jihve. With your tongue, always chant the holy name of Krishna. Janma Safalya mantram. Safalya. In Hindi we say safalta. Safalya. In Bengali or Hindi or any other Indian language, Safalya. But in Sanskrit there is no fa sound. It is pha. Safalya mantram. Janma Safalya mantram. So, Safalya means phala. Phala means fruit. Safalya means complete fruition or the perfection. Janma Safalya. The perfection of life can be achieved by this mantra. So, the Upanishads are glorifying the name. Upanishads are glorifying the form. Here so many Upanishads are mentioned here. Vajasana Upanishad, Shvetashvatara Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad. Again the spelling is wrong here. It is Chandogya, not Chandogya, Chandogya. CH. Okay. That soul, Krishna, is dearer than one's son, dearer than wealth, for he is omniscient. Things that are sense-pleasing are never worth endearment. Very important. Things that are sense-pleasing are never worth endearment. It is not worth becoming attached to the things that please the senses. They are never worth endearment. Because ultimately they will be the sources of distress. The more we become attached, attachment is the root cause of all miseries. Because that whatever we are attached to will not last, and at the time of separation it brings extreme pain, and to maintain the attachment we have to undergo so much pain to maintain the attachment. So it is not joy at all. From the pleasure of the great soul or the Paramatma, all joy proceeds. So things that are sense pleasing are never worth endearment. From the pleasure of the great soul, all joy proceeds. So if you want real joy, it is not by sense gratification but by making Krishna happy. And from his joy, from the pleasure of the great soul, when he is in pleasure, then all joy proceeds. But he is always in pleasure, why are we suffering then? That may be asked. It is like this. The body is being nourished. But if the finger chooses to be separate from the body, if the finger is not connected with the body, although the body is being nourished, but the finger is not nourished because it is detached itself. The branch of the tree, the water may be nourished, but if the branch is disassociated from the tree, then it will not get the nourishment. So similarly, now we are divorced from Krishna. We are divorced from him. So we need to patch back our relationship. Then Krishna's joy will proceed to us also. Thus the eternal relation of happiness between Krishna and Jīva is Prema. What exact connection does there exist between this manifested and visible mundane world and the spiritual sphere? What exact connection does there exist between this manifested and visible mundane world and the spiritual sphere? In going to search after spiritual truths, more often than not, we are deluded. True. We can't depend on our senses or some other people or some study of meticulous study of scriptures independently without the guidance of Guru. All these things won't work. We will be left deluded. Uh, After deep contemplation and discrimination, we conclude spirit to be something opposite to matter. This is the neti, the impersonal understanding. Opposite to matter. Pressing our worldly reasoning too far, we leave Chid-rasa to the background and are satisfied with an imaginative, inarticulate and incomplete conception of spiritual Brahman. Polished English, very nicely, succinctly explained. Pressing our worldly reasoning too far. So, our worldly reasoning, our material intellect is insufficient to contain the infinite absolute truth. So, we should not. That's why his name is Achintya. Inconceivable. Conceive. What is conceiving? When a mother conceives a child, that means what? The child is within the body of the mother now. He has the child has taken shelter in the body of the mother. That is called conception, conceiving. The mother has conceived the child. So that means it can be wrapped around. Now our brain cannot wrap around the Lord. Yashoda Maya, she tried to wrap around Krishna, the rope. Could not. Until Krishna allowed. So, athapite deva padambujadvaya prasada leshanugrihita eva hi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno nachanyekopi chiran vichinman. Unless there is the mercy of the Lord, we cannot understand him. We cannot understand him just by our exercise, our great intelligence. I will figure out the Lord. No, we cannot. We cannot wrap our heads around the Lord. And that is why he is called Achintya, inconceivable. We cannot conceive him. It's like the mother conceives the child. The child is within the mother. We cannot put Krishna within the confines of our intellect. So 10, 14, 29. My Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years. And not just the study of the Vedas. And that's why the Brahma Samhita is called Vedeshu Durlabham. Adurlabham Atma Bhakta. Very easy to be gotten by the devotees, but very difficult even after, extensive study of the Vedas. And not only Vedas. Tarko pratishtha shrutayo vibhinna nasa vrishirya samatam na bhinnam dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam mahajano yenagata sapantha. Only those mahajans who are devotees, adurlabham atma bhakta, they know the solid truth of religious principles, which is the chanting of the holy name, the meditation on Krishna. So after deep contemplation and discrimination, we conclude spirit to be something opposite to matter. If we go on the strength of our intellect, this is the opposite conclusion we will come to. That spirit has nothing, matter has form, so spirit has no form. Matter has qualities, so spirit has no qualities. So in this way we come to this form, understanding, impersonal understanding, where the supreme truth has no form, no taste, no nothing. So that is an offensive conclusion. And we will be lost, we will be deluded. We cannot get anything out of that. Pressing our worldly reasoning too far. Pressing our worldly reasoning means like really having full confidence in our intellect. And too far, too far means something, we're trying to grasp something which is beyond our comprehension. But if we try to do that with our material intellect, we will get a very, very, very distorted version, a distorted perspective of it. We leave Chid-rasa to the background, or the spiritual aspect to the background, and are satisfied with an imaginative, inarticulate. We cannot even describe such an impersonal thing. Oh, it has no form. Formless. You cannot even say the word formless without using the word form. Form is the basis, and formless means is without form. So there is no independent description of that formless state. Nothingness. Nothing is also what? No thing. The thing is the basis, and no thing means then it is nothing. If there is no things, then there is nothing. So the formless is also based on a form. There cannot be an independent description of formless. So it's an imaginative, and it is a state which is not even possible to conceive it doesn't even exist factually, and it's a wrong conclusion we arrive at if we depend on our minute intellectual capacity. So we leave Chidrasa to the background and are satisfied with an imaginative, inarticulate. We can't even articulate about it. We cannot even talk about it properly without referring to the form all the time. And nirguna. Nirguna means what? Without guna. You cannot even say the word without the word guna. Guna is the basis, qualities. So an incomplete conception of spiritual Brahman. So the impersonal Brahman aspect is only a very, very partial aspect of the Supreme Truth, as we know. This is only an imagination of the Cit-Svarūpa of Brahman. Imagination, it's not reality. In such a stage, Brahman is immutable, that means unchangeable, incorporeal, that means he has no body, invisible, and formless, without attributes, there's no attributes, and dry of Prema. This is the pathetic conclusion we will arrive at if we depend on our so-called highly developed material intellect. But if we, on the other hand, accept the words of Krishna as they are, and as they are understood and accepted by the pure devotees, then a whole new world will be open to us, the spiritual world, with full variegatedness, with the beauty of Krishna that is unmatched by even millions and trillions of times the beauty multiplied. Trillions of times of multiplication of the material beauty. Can't even match. Kandarpa kotikamaniya vishesha shobham. This uncommon perception is like the sky flower, Akasha Pushpa. It's just a phantasmagoria, it's just an imagination, there's no reality in that. What is a sky flower? What is a sky flower? There's no such thing. Flowers don't grow in the sky. So it's just an imagination. And being unable to know the name, form, attributes and pastimes or diversions of that Chit Svarūpa, we turn to being inactive. We practically kill ourselves. This is called spiritual suicide. Hence, therefore, Kaivalyam Narakayate. This impersonal realization is compared by the devotee sees it as hell, absolute hell. So, hence it is that, we turn to being inactive. Hence it is that all portents of Jīva come to pass due to this dry wisdom. Portents of Jivas come to pass due to this dry wisdom. Okay, we are having an English lesson today. A sign or... Okay, there are two meanings. A sign or warning that a momentous or calamitous event is likely to happen. Yeah, portent is omen, a bad omen. In literary things, an exceptional or wonderful person or thing. Okay, so it is this second meaning that is actually attributable to this word here. Hence it is that all portents of Jivas come to pass due to this dry wisdom. So all kinds of good qualities of Jivas will become finished by taking shelter of this dry wisdom. It is called dry wisdom because there is no juice in it. There is no flavor to it. Because there is no rasa. Rasa means the taste and the flavor. There is no flavor of love. It's dry of the prema. This is well illustrated in the conversation between Vyasa and Narada. Is referring to this conversation in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, chapter 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a summary of this, especially 4, 5, and also 6, but mainly 4 and 5. You see, it is clear from the above that you never can know the spiritual sportive pastimes of Parabrahma if you are dazzled by the mere Chit Svarūpa of Brahman. That means, in other words, which is only a semblance of the eternal light of Chit. So, if you are only concerned with the impersonal Brahman aspect of the Lord, we cannot understand the pastimes of the Lord, which are actually the activities of the person. Bhagavan realization means not just to understand the person, the body. Person means the form, the qualities, the name, the activities, the entourage, what is his connections or contacts, everything. That is a person. Person includes everything. Otherwise, he is not a person. So, all personal attributes. Okay? So, they cannot be understood if we are just dazzled by the mere Cit-Svarūpa of Brahman, which is only a semblance of the eternal light of Chit. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, brother, look ahead. Look ahead from this, this dazzling light, which is Brahma Jyoti. Enter into the kingdom of God after dashing through the brilliance of pure and simple Chit. So, a similar verse is there in the Upanishad. Hiranmayena patrena satyasyapi hitam mukham tattvam pushanna pavranu satya dharmaya drishtaye. Upanishad mantra 15. O my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotee. You see, this is a prayer. And in the Bhagavad Gita also he mentions this. Brahmano hi pratisthaham amritasya vyayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukhasya ikantikasya cha. I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. So, in other words, the impersonal Brahma Jyoti is reliant on Krishna. Krishna is the source of that light, in other words. So, the light itself is not everything. The source of the light is where we need to get to. So, that's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying. Brother, look ahead. Enter into the kingdom of God after dashing through the brilliance of pure and simple Chit. There you will be able to realize the spiritual pastimes of Godhead. Then you will be able to taste the ambrosia or the nectar of an incessant Brahma rasa or spiritual rasa, taste, mellow. No longer will your soul remain wooden-like. The name, form, attributes and leela of the Supreme Being are manifested not by any earthly light but by a spiritual flame. Okay, the English is quite sorry about that. The name, form, attributes and leela of the Supreme Being are manifested not by any earthly light but by a spiritual flame. In other words, no amount of material knowledge can cast light on the name, form, attributes and leela of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It can only be ignited from the lamp of knowledge that Krishna himself kindles in the heart of the devotee who engages in his service. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te tesham aham samuddharta. Oh, there's another verse. Tesham evanukampartham aham ajnanajam tamah nashayamyatma bhavastho jnana deepena bhasvata. This is the spiritual flame. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. And similar verses there in the 15th chapter, 15:19. Yo mam evam asammudho janati purushottamam sasarvavid bhajati mam sarvabhavena bharata. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata. Also it is described in the 5th chapter, 16th verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Jnānena tu tad ajñānam yesham nashitam atmanah tesham adityavajñānam prakāṣayati tatparam. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. So, the sun is just fire, a spiritual flame. And when we say spiritual flame, it's not just like a feeble candle light in the dark room, which is giving a little bit of a dim light and I can see something, how everything looks and kind of feels, and so that I don't bang onto something. No. When we say spiritual flame, it is as bright as the sun. Adityavajnanam. Adityavat means like the sun, like the rising sun. This knowledge is Adityavad Jnanam. This is the spiritual flame. And no amount of torchlights or glowworms can reveal the spiritual truth. The sun, moon, stars, lightning and fire of this earth are quite unfit to give light to that other spiritual horizon. So the spiritual world, the light from our sun cannot go there. In fact, the other way around, the Brahma Jyoti is actually being reflected by the sun here and giving us light. So that's, of course, we know this verse from the Bhagavad Gita, which is Na tad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yadgatvana nivartante taddhama paramam mama. That supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to the material world. So, this spiritual light, which is far beyond worldly lights, brightens that region. This Brahma Jyoti brightens the whole spiritual sky. It is only a perverted reflection of that light that we think supplies us with light. But in fact, it does not. The sun is actually a reflection of the real light of the Brahma Jyoti. Now, if you think the sun's light is so scorching, hot and bright, that's just a very dim reflection of the Brahma Jyoti. And just imagine to pass through that kind of effulgence, glaring effulgence, dazzling effulgence, and go to the personal aspect of the Lord. That is an achievement like no other. It is only a perverted reflection of that light that we think supplies us with light, but in fact it does not. While describing Brahmapura, it's not Brahmapura, Brahmapura. Pura means city, also a place or a region or a country or whatever. Brahmapura means the region of Brahman. While describing Brahmapura, the Chandogya Upanishad gives us a comprehensive knowledge of it. The spiritual kingdom as displayed by the spiritual light is an ideal to this base earth. Base means, there are two meanings. Base is, base, like something is a base, like the resting place. Another meaning of base is degraded or very inferior in quality. Like the base modes, passion and ignorance. Many times we have seen those words. Base modes of passion and ignorance. It means they are very inferior, very dirty, very, not very highly regarded. That is also the meaning of base. So the spiritual kingdom as displayed by the spiritual light is an ideal to this base earth. That means it looks like earth, just like Vrindavan. There are lakes, everything is there. Golok Vrindavan. But that is the ideal. And this is base, this is material, this is full of misery but that is, there is not the least tinge of baseness, while on the contrary, only an all-pervasive daintiness is its sweet affair. Again, the English is just like super top-notch. And daintiness is delicate, divine. I think that's the meaning of it. Let's see. Daintiness. The quality of being beautiful and delicate in appearance. So it is full beauty. On earth, it does appear beautiful, but actually it's full of horror, honestly. It looks beautiful because Krishna has created it. Actually, it is horror. What do I mean? For example, a river looks beautiful, but you get into the river, it's horror. A mountain is beautiful, you jump from it, it's horror. And it's made of all rough stone and everything. It all looks beautiful. But we're actually in a horrific situation. Birth and death. So, if the earth were ideal, that is the spiritual world. So it is not ideal. It's temporary. It's fleeting beauty. It only is beautiful because what is beauty? For example, in a nice garden, what is beautiful? The plants, for example, flowers and everything. But what are trees? they are one of the most degraded forms of life in the evolutionary species. Not Western evolution, but the evolution of the soul's consciousness according to the ignorance, passion and goodness. Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. So, the more Tamasic one is, or passionate one is, Rajasic, one goes to the form of tree. I mean, after the fish, Jalajana Valakshani, Sthavara Lakshavimsati. I mean, just above the fish is the trees. It's very, very low in consciousness. But, so it's actually predominantly in the mode of ignorance. They are predominantly. But, it all looks beautiful because Krishna's touch is there. But actually it's in the Tamasic gun. But forests are considered to be in the mode of goodness for a spiritualist. Why? If our association with the modes is what determines our quality, like if I associate with the people in the mode of goodness or things in the mode of goodness, then I am in the mode of goodness. If I associate with people in the mode of ignorance, I am in the ignorance. I will become in ignorance. So if everything is ignorance in the forest and the animals and all these things, trees and plants and everything is in ignorance, why is that considered a mode of goodness? Because there is a magic that Krishna does. The thing is, we cannot really associate with the trees because the communication is a barrier. The trees communicate among themselves, but we don't understand. So we actually don't associate with them. We can feel the beauty, we can feel the freshness, we can feel all of that. We may also feel the fear of the wild animals in the forest. But since we can't communicate with them in a how to say like we can communicate with humans, it leaves us space to think about higher things. If you're always communicating with all kinds of people, and then especially the mode of passion and ignorance, then we have no time, and not only no time, but being influenced by them, we will be in ignorance and passion, and we ourselves will think like that. So in the forest, there is no such chance because they can't influence our thinking much. It just gives us a sense of peace or something like that amongst nature, but apart from that, there is not much actual interaction between the species, and that's a blessing in one sense. Whereas if you see, when people have pets, for example, pets, now also they cannot really communicate that much as we can communicate with humans, but there is definitely a sense of very, very strong attachment, and that causes the association. When our attachment is there, when we are attached to, say, our dog, and then we can communicate with the dog not in especially the words language, but they can understand something what we intend. So that feelings, there is an interaction of feelings without actual language. And then the dog is attached to the owner and the owner is attached to the dog, and then sometimes they eat together, sleep together and all these things. So he becomes very attached to the dog. Whereas in the forest, he doesn't get attached to this tree. Oh, and the tree also reciprocates. No, not really. Like Bharat Maharaj, he became distracted by that deer, and that's what caused his downfall. But otherwise, who would be attracted to this grass? Oh, very cute grass, and every day just touch the grass, and who does that? Nobody. So this is, how Krishna has created all of this with such intricate details, so that in the midst of all kinds of ignorance and passion, one can actually have the space, mental space, and physical solitude, where he can perform his yogic practices and all of that. There is so much Krishna has done that we don't even notice, and he does effortlessly. So moving on, there is not the least tinge of baseness. So in the spiritual world, there is no baseness. There is no, every relation there is eternal, whereas here every relation breaks on earth. Everything, it all looks well and good, but it all lasts just. It's a flickering reality. It's not. It does not last very much, and we can't even stay that long. So there is, in the spiritual world, that's why it is said the spiritual kingdom as displayed by the spiritual light is an ideal to this base earth. There is not the least tinge of baseness, while on the contrary, only an all-pervasive daintiness of beauty and delicate beauty and all this. Just beauty, absolute beauty is its sweet affair, is its characteristic, in other words. The 14 mundane worlds are only a perverted reflection of that sphere. The gross sun is a reflection of that light. And that means the material sun. Gross sun means this material sun. And the material, the 14 mundane worlds, 14 planetary systems. The gross sun is a reflection of the light, and its subtle reflection is seen in the mundane rays of dry wisdom arising from mind, conscience and consciousness. Now, I hope you understood that. Okay, gross, we can understand the sun and all the planets and everything. That is a perverted reflection of that spiritual sphere, spiritual worlds. The gross sun is a reflection of that light. So the light which we physically see, the sunlight, that is a reflection of the spiritual light. But its subtle reflection, the subtle reflection of Brahmajyoti, is seen in the mundane rays of dry wisdom. You see, physical light removes darkness. Knowledge removes the darkness of ignorance, and that is a subtle darkness. It's not actually a physical darkness, but it's a darkness because we can't see things as they are, and that is a subtle darkness, the ignorance. So the knowledge that, lights up that is a subtle reflection of the Brahmajyoti. Now, dry wisdom, they are like torchlight, like not like really like the sun. The sun, is a very vast light, but this, so the Krishna conscious knowledge as revealed by Krishna is like the sun. But dry wisdom is like the mundane rays of dry wisdom arising from mind, conscience and consciousness. They are the subtle reflection of the real light of Brahmajyoti. See how nicely Bhaktivinoda Thakur is, how he's seeing, how much detail, how much depth, he's seeing. That philosophy is also a light, a kind of light. It's a glowworm. That glowworm also is a light. And all light, original source of all light is Brahmajyoti. Whether some are bright, some are less bright or dimmer, that's all. So the mundane rays of dry wisdom arising from mind, conscience and consciousness, that is a subtle reflection of the real Brahmajyoti. The real light of knowledge of Krishna's Bhagavan feature, that is supreme light. Adityavad jnanam, that jnanam is like sun. Tesham adityavad jnanam prakashayati tat param. Everything is revealed by that knowledge. Whereas dry wisdom arising from mind, conscience and consciousness does not reveal everything. So our gross senses believe the gross sun to be a flash of luster, and we are proud of the earthly knowledge which is gained by the dint of the 8 processes of yoga that are actions of the subtle intellect, conscience and ego. Now, okay, gross light, the sun, we can understand. The earthly knowledge gained by the dint of the 8 processes of yoga. So in yoga there is so much tapasya done and one gets yogic powers. But the scientific advancement is also emulating the yogic perfections. Like to be in many places at the same time, like what we are doing now with this live stream. We are in, as I can see, the number is 16 people are watching it. So I am in 16 places plus 1, this 17, this physical location itself. So 17 places I am there speaking the same thing. So this is, a yogi would be able to do that. He can expand himself into 8 forms. Here we have expanded into 16 forms. But everything does the same thing. Even the yogi also can do the same thing only with all those. Whereas Krishna, when he was in Dwaraka in 16,108 forms, he was doing different things in different forms. And Narada was astonished to see this. And there is, the description is mentioned that Narada was astonished because he was well aware of the yogic perfection of doing the same thing in all places. But, so being in all places did not really astonish him. But doing different things in different places, that was what astonished him, because that is totally not possible for any ordinary soul, even if he be the perfect yogi. See? So, our gross senses believe the gross sun to be a flash of luster, and we're proud of the earthly knowledge. This is the subtle light, subtle dim reflection, so-called knowledge. dry wisdom. So, the earthly knowledge is gained by dint of 8 processes of yoga. So, it may be by the 8 processes of yoga or by the scientific advancement, which is also kind of trying to emulate the same things, like flying into the sky and like become lighter than the water. Like ships are basically doing that. You can fly along above the water just by sitting in a ship, and a yogi could do that without a ship. But ultimately, you are getting to the other side of the shore. Other shore. So you are achieving those similar things by scientific advancement. So we may be proud of this light, subtle light of earthly knowledge. There are actions of the subtle intellect, conscience, and ego. All these are seemingly natural workings of engrossed jivas. Those who are engrossed in this material world, for them it is a seemingly natural way of work. They take pride in these things and they see the sun to be the source of all light. They don't understand it's a dim reflection of the real light, Brahmajyoti, and they don't understand there's a light of real knowledge, which is like the sun, but they take shelter of torchlight, mini torchlights like knowledge of earthly gained knowledge, scientific advancement or philosophical speculation. Now, listening to the advice of Narada, while Dvaipayana Rishi, Vyasa, was completely absorbed in the single and natural deep meditation of the soul, so he heard the advice of Narada and he performed his meditation. So what happened? He fully and clearly saw the name, form, attributes and pastimes of the Supreme Person. He also saw Maya, the shadow of the Parashakti, as having no other shelter than the Absolute Truth, and understood the anarthas of jivas, the atomic chit tattvas who are engrossed, fascinated and enslaved by Maya. Further realizing that such jivas can come to perceive their own personal forms if absorbed in a profoundly meditative bhakti yoga, he compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam, which describes the spiritual pastimes of Bhagavan. The forgetfulness of his own eternal form and the form of Krishna is the foremost anartha of a jiva. Okay, we will go there. Now, what is this mentioning? This is actually the 4 verses, 174, 175, 176, 177. These 4 verses are mentioned here. Let me take you to those verses. I think you know these verses. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.4. So, when Vyasadeva followed the instructions of Narada Muni, Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite male apashyat purusham purnam mayam cha tadapashrayam. Thus he fixed his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking it in the devotional service of Bhakti Yoga without any tinge of materialism, and thus he saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, which was under full control, apashrayam, under full control. Not that it was out of control. 175. Yaya sammohito jiva. Actually, these are very important verses every devotee should learn. Yaya sammohito jiva atmanam trigunatmakam paropi manute anartham tatkritam chabhipadyate. Due to this external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the 3 modes of material nature, thinks of himself as a material product and thus undergoes reactions of material miseries. So the living entity is above these 3 modes of material nature, sattva, raja and tamogunas. But he thinks himself as a material product, although he is not. And because he thinks himself like that out of false ego, he undergoes reactions of material miseries. 176. Anarthopashamam sakshad bhakti yoga madhokshaje lokasya janato vidvams chakre satvata samhitam. Anartha, these things which are superfluous or unwanted things. Upashamam, mitigation. The material miseries of the living entity which are superfluous to him can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the mass of people do not know this, and therefore the learned Vyasadeva compiled this Vedic literature which is in relation to the Supreme Truth. So all this was just mentioned in that description by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So the biggest anartha upashamam, the biggest anartha is to think that we are independent of Krishna and that we are this body. That is the biggest anartha, as mentioned just now in the Harināma Cintāmaṇi. And of course, here, next verse also, 177. Yasyam vaishrūyamanayam Krishne paramapurushe bhaktirutpadyate pumsah soka moha bhayapaha. Simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion and fearfulness. Just by hearing Bhagavatam. So it is mentioned that Vyasadeva has written the Bhagavatam, which describes the spiritual pastimes of Bhagavan. The forgetfulness of his own eternal form and the form of Krishna is the foremost anartha of a jiva. whence arises his aversion to Krishna. So because we forget Krishna, we forget our own self, we become averse to Krishna, as a result of which he is revolved by the wheel of Maya on the path of karma. Thus the world is full of weal and woes. This is usually used for all kind of miseries. Weal. Weal and woes. In times of happiness and success, and in times of sadness and difficulty. Joy and sorrow is the most suitable substitute. Okay. So, thus the world is full of weal and woes. So, this is material happiness and distresses situation. Sukha Dukkha. When Jivas take shelter under Bhakti, after discarding the basely turned endeavors of the mundane wise reasoning of the 8 processes of yoga, of the karma margis, followers of karma or fruitive acts, and of the arguments of the Sankhya school, of the jnana margis, seekers of dry wisdom, which vainly try to refute things that are not God or his concerns, then only are the pure rays of spiritual intuition enkindled in them by being naturally absorbed in divine contemplation. That is quite a mouthful of English. So let's go a little bit slowly. When Jivas take shelter under Bhakti, after discarding the basely turned endeavors, that means after discarding all kinds of other inferior processes of endeavors of the mundane wise reasoning, that means of material reasoning, mundane wise reasoning of the 8 processes, that means after having given up the yoga, karma, jnana, that is what it is being mentioned. So after discarding the basely turned endeavors of the mundane wise reasoning of the 8 processes of yoga, of the karma margis, followers of karma or fruitive acts, and of the arguments of the Sankhya school of the jnana margis, seekers of dry wisdom. So jnana, karma, jnana and yoga, all giving up everything and taking to only bhakti. So if we take to any of these 3, they vainly try to refute things that are not God or his concerns. So if we give up all these 3 parts of karma, jnana and yoga, then only, if we take shelter under bhakti, discarding karma, jnana, yoga, then only are the pure rays of spiritual intuition enkindled in them by being naturally absorbed in divine contemplation. So by being, in contemplation of the Lord, or always meditating on the Lord, in such bhakti, then only the pure rays of spiritual intuition or spiritual knowledge is enkindled in them. So in other words, only by bhakti can we get spiritual knowledge, not by karma, jnana, yoga. That is being mentioned here in such complicated and ornamental English, which we're not used to in the 21st century. In the 19th and 20th beginning of 20th century, it was quite common, but now no. The worldly pleasures then prick them like piercing thorns, and Krishna Prema is awakened in the heart. So then they understand the real nature of the worldly pleasures. They actually don't consider them as pleasures, they consider them as thorns, which prick, which are painful. So in other words, a devotee sees the miserable condition of the material world and is not fooled by the so-called packaging of the material world, Maya, and who is trying to befool us in trying to make us believe that this is actually a good place to live in. So he sees through all that crap or lie. So he sees the real truth and sees it as a thorn. And Krishna Prema is awakened in the heart. By these means only can they be blessed by the grace of Krishna, the spiritual sun, Krishna Surya Sama. This divine grace is the only means for washing away all stain from the mind and for progressing forward towards the ever-shining land of Krishna. So this divine grace, so Krishna's grace, Krishna's mercy is the only way we can attain to this, and that is possible by bhakti, which enkindles the spiritual knowledge in one's heart. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitah Janayatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayada Haitukam. And also in the, I think 3:29:13, I guess. Also it is, no. Yeah, I think so, somewhere around there. Same thing. So a sincere person in a sincere faith in pure devotion is the root cause of this unlabored restraint of the senses together with the mind and confinement of the soul in a deep contemplation on Godhead. Again, quite a mouthful. Let's break that up. So, a sincere faith in pure devotion is the root cause of this unlabored restraint of the senses. What is unlabored restraint of the senses? It is very succinctly mentioned, but it's quite a profound thing. So, restraint of the senses, we know. Restraining the senses from sinful activities. So that is only possible by pure devotion. But what is unlabored restraint? That means the devotee who is in touch with pure devotion, he does not labor or he does not try to keep away from sinful activities. He does it with ease because of his natural relish for devotional service, because of the higher taste. So therefore he doesn't labor much to keep his senses restrained from sinful activities or from the objects of the senses. So that's why it is said here, a sincere faith in pure devotion is the root cause of this unlabored restraint of the senses together with the mind and confinement of the soul in a deep contemplation on Godhead. So he confines himself. That means he does not wander away from that deep meditation on Krishna. That means, in other words, he is constantly and with extreme focus, he is always meditating on Krishna in pure devotion. That is what is being mentioned here. When the happy moment came, Dvaipayana Rishi became doubtful about the rules and methods of Karmakanda. Again, spelling is wrong. Not Kanda. Kanda. No, Kanda. K-A with the bar on top, that's correct. But N with the dot below, D with the dot below. Karmakanda. That is actual spelling. Anyway, so when the happy moment came, what happy moment? What is the happy moment? What is he talking about? When he realized, by following the instructions of Narada, he realized and he saw Krishna, he saw Maya under his full control. He saw the Jivas suffering because being under Maya. And the only way they can get out of that is by hearing the Bhagavatam. And therefore, Vidvams Chakre Sattvata Samhitam, he wrote this Bhagavatam. So that is the happy moment when he realized, because in the beginning he was despondent, right? In the 4th chapter of the first canto of Bhagavatam, he was despondent, Vyasadeva, after writing the whole Vedic literature, very, very vast literature, but he was very despondent, he was not happy. And Narada Muni told him, you are not happy because you have not described the pastimes of the Lord. You have just given indirect indications towards the Supreme Lord, but you have not mentioned him and his pastimes per se. And that is your biggest fault. In fact, he very strongly chastised him, Narada Muni. I'll just take you to that one particular verse. When I also mentioned this in one of my videos on my channel, when we were talking against Gaur Gopal's nonsense motivational speeches. Jugupsitam dharma kritenu shasatah svabhava raktasya mahan vyatikramah yadvakyato dharma ititarah sthito namanyate tasya nivaranam janah. The people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. This is verily condemned and is quite unreasonable, because they are guided by your instructions, under your instructions. They will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions. So you have given them karma kanda. Oh, you want to enjoy? Okay, go and enjoy in the heavenly planets. Here is some yajna so that you can go there. What have you done? You have just, in the name of religion, you are just encouraging them in the material pursuit of material enjoyment. So he condemned, Narada Muni condemned that. Srila Vyasadeva's compilation of different Vedic literatures on the basis of regulated performances of fruitive activities. You see, Vyasadeva, in those Vedic literatures, there are so many karmakanda rituals he prescribed. As depicted in the Mahabharata and other literature, is condemned herewith by Srila Narada. The human beings, by long material association life after life, have a natural inclination by practice to endeavor to lord it over material energy. They have no sense of the responsibility of human life. This human form of life is a chance to get out of the clutches of illusory matter. The Vedas are meant for going back to Godhead, going back home. To revolve in the cycle of transmigration in a series of lives numbering 8,400,000 is an imprisoned life for the condemned conditioned souls. The human form of life is a chance to get out of this imprisoned life, and as such, the only occupation of the human being is to re-establish his lost relationship with God. Under the circumstances, one should never be encouraged in making a plan for sense enjoyment in the name of religious functions. Such diversion of the human energy results in a misguided civilization. Srila Vyasadeva is the authority in Vedic explanations in the Mahabharata, etc., and his encouragement in sense enjoyment in some form or other is a great barrier for spiritual advancement, because the people in general will not agree to renounce material activities which held them in material bondage in the first place. At a certain stage of human civilization, when such material activities in the name of religion, as sacrificing animals in the name of yajna, were too much rampant, the Lord incarnated himself as Buddha and decried the authority of the Vedas in order to stop animal sacrifice in the name of religion. This was foreseen by Narada. In other words, this so-called karmakanda processes prescribed by Vyasadeva in the Vedas turned out to be so damaging that the Lord himself had to come down and decry the whole Vedic process, so that to stop people from this animal killing. That damaging. I mean, people totally misunderstood the whole purpose of the Vedas. So this was foreseen by Narada Muni, you see. This was foreseen by Narada, and therefore he condemned such literatures. If the Vedas were only Bhagavatam, then that Buddha doesn't need to come. Of course, we cannot say like that, because the Lord has his plans. But just given the fact that if they were not there, then people would not misrepresent the Vedas, and Buddha doesn't need to come, Shankaracharya doesn't need to come. But because it is Kali Yuga, these things had to happen, because people had to be misguided, they asked for it. So they are given that, all of that. But in the same time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and opened up a whole program for us, so that we can go back to Godhead. That is also there. But anyway, this whole distraction of this karmakanda and then after that Buddhism, atheism, and then after that impersonalism by Shankaracharya, all these distractions came about because of that encouragement of material enjoyments by Vyasadeva in the Vedas. Of course, there is a reason why this is there. It's not entirely to be condemned. But Narada, he is a pure devotee. He is only pure devotee, doesn't give much importance to karmakanda or all these rituals, and he seeks the highest good even for the lowest person. Like, for example, Mrigari, hunter, we know the story. Narada Muni made him a great devotee. Now, if Mrigari were to elevate himself to spiritual consciousness by following the Vedas, he would have to follow, instead of killing animals, half killing them, which is so horrible, he has to follow that tamasic part of the Vedas, where goat killing is allowed under the in front of Kali, and then offer on the Amavasya dark moon night, offer it to Kali, and then eat. He can eat like that. So, and then slowly work his way up all the way, and then finally after many lifetimes he can become a devotee. But Narada Muni wants to see that every worst sinful person be given the highest thing immediately, and therefore he gave the Mrigari immediately the holy name, initiated him, and that person became a pure devotee in no time, just like that. That's why Parvat Muni and Narada Muni came back to check on him, how he was doing. Parvat Muni is a very good friend of Narada Muni. So when they both came, and then this person was so, when he saw Narada Muni, he became so joyful that he wanted to run and pay obeisances at his feet. But as he was running, there were ants on the path, and then he took out his chadar, and then he was wiping the ants, brushing them aside so that they won't be killed. And then when Parvat Muni saw this, He was killing animals, half killing them, and now he doesn't want to kill an ant. You are a Cintāmaṇi. You are a touchstone, he told Narada Muni. You are touchstone. Whoever you touch, they become immediate devotee. So Narada Muni and pure devotees, they don't prescribe this Vedic path, this slow path. No, they want quick benefit for everyone, even the worst sinner. And by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, it is possible by this Harināma. Nityananda Prabhu delivered Jagai and Madhai. If they were to follow Vedic processes, when they will get in salvation? But he gave them the highest love of Godhead immediately, just like that. This is the mercy of the pure devotee. So Narada Muni condemned Vyasadeva for that reason. Why have you written such an extensive... with humans, you have written so much for them and done nothing to describe the real goal of this whole processes. People will be lost. What have you done? What have you done, Vyasadeva? He chastised him. So, as we read on, too much rampant, and Lord himself incarnated as Buddha and decried the authority of the Vedas in order to stop the animal sacrifice in the name of religion. This was foreseen by Narada, and therefore he condemned such literatures. The flesh eaters still continue to perform animal sacrifice before some demigod or goddess in the name of religion, because in some of the Vedic literatures such regulated sacrifice are recommended. They are so recommended to discourage flesh eating, but gradually the purpose of such religious activities is forgotten and the slaughterhouse becomes prominent. This is because foolish materialistic men do not care to listen to others who are actually in a position to explain the Vedic rites. In the Vedas, it is distinctly said that the perfection of life is never to be attained either by voluminous work or by accumulation of wealth or even by increasing the population. But it is so attained only by renunciation. The materialistic men do not care to listen to such injunctions. According to them, the so-called renounced order of life is meant for those who are unable to earn their livelihood because of some corporeal defects, because of some bodily defects, or for persons who have failed to achieve prosperity in family life. For them, sannyas, who are frustrated in life, let them go and have some life at least. Otherwise, they'll commit suicide. It is a like a counseling session for those who want to commit suicide. And okay, you don't commit suicide, you be sannyasi and let people give food to you. You are not incapable of producing your own food. You just beg and you live around and chant the holy name and be happy wherever you are. That is the idea of sannyas, of those who are so-called people of this world. So renunciation is it's like a loser. Basically, a renunciate is a loser in life. But give him a chance to live. Have pity on him. Otherwise, he'll commit suicide. That kind of thing they have, idea they have. So they totally misunderstand everything. So why have you done this, Vyasadeva? In histories like the Mahabharata, of course, there are topics of transcendental subjects along with the material topics. The Bhagavad Gita is there in the Mahabharata. The whole idea of the Mahabharata culminates in the ultimate instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, that one should relinquish all other engagements and should engage oneself solely and fully in surrendering unto the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. But men with materialistic tendencies are more attracted to the politics, economics and philanthropic activities mentioned in the Mahabharata than to the principal topic, namely the Bhagavad Gita. How many movies are there based on Mahabharata? Then there is, my great-grandfather, mother's side. He acted in a movie called Danavira Surakarna, in Telugu movie. He is actually an actor, my great-grandfather, and he acted in more than 100 films, it seems. I don't even know his name properly, my mother would know, but anyway, that's a side topic. But he was in the movie industry and he acted in this movie, Danavira Surakarna. So Karna is glorified. His philanthropic activities, you see here, philanthropic activities mentioned. So men with materialistic tendencies are more attracted to the politics, the politics that happened, or how Shakuni, is a main character in that whole thing. People like some intrigue, some kind of a conspiracy, some kind of a masala, something to spice things up, the story. Otherwise, everything good and everything chanting and very boring. We want some spice for some villain, in the scene, Duryodhan, and then there is disrobing of Draupadi, and there is all this drama. People come for drama. And then, of course, there is the Bhagavad Gita. But who discusses Bhagavad Gita? If you talk about, if they at all mention Bhagavad Gita, they say, what is that? Some Gita Saram. One poster will be there everywhere. Nonsense things never mentioned in Bhagavad Gita once. They are mentioned as Gita Saram. Whatever is yours today was somebody else's yesterday, will be somebody else's tomorrow. Some, it's like meaningless things. Krishna says, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, everything belongs to me. Not here, there, or whoever. Me. I am the owner. Yeah? Aham sarvasya prabhava. Matta sarvam pravartate. What belonging to somebody? Me. And surrendering everything to me. But where is this described? So the real thing they won't show. Everything else. Danavira Surakarna, some Ghatotkacha movie will come out, and that too some speculation in the Ghatotkacha movie. Then this is another thing. Nowadays there are cartoons. Even the old Ghatotkacha movie, so much speculation was there. Why do they think that they can speculate on these things? These are historical facts. Can I make a movie about Gandhi that some fictional like he had a love story or something like that going on, or something like that, or something he went into Japan and he became an entrepreneur, Gandhian entrepreneur, and make him does anything like that come out? Gandhi became an entrepreneur, a software engineer or a software business magnate. Does that thing come out? No. Whatever Gandhi did, that will be shown. That's all. Nobody will be interested in a Gandhi, cartoon, what he did in the childhood and make up stories and just for getting people to believe in a peace message. No. Whatever Gandhi did, they will show, right? It's a historical fact. Whatever Hitler did, they will show. Whatever all these historical characters did, they will show. Why then there are so many nonsense going on? When Mahabharata is there, when all these Puranas are there, they are authentic descriptions of historical incidences. Why are they making up? Nowadays there is Chota Bheem and another cartoon. All these cartoons, Chota Bheem. Bheem goes to, Bheem is there. There is no Yudhishthira. Mahaprabhu, he makes fun of this cartoon. He says Yudhishthira is in daycare, nursery somewhere, daycare, and the Kunti Devi is just with the Bhima only. No Arjuna, no Nakula Sahadev, or no Yudhishthira, also only Bhim. And the Bhim is like acting like a fool like that, doing stupid things and going to some school and why all these things? And then they started another cartoon, because after that Little Krishna cartoon came out from ISKCON Bangalore. That was nice. Okay, all Krishna's pastimes according to Krishna. I think there is another also which is run by ISKCON or something. But these people, then they started another cartoon called Tridev. Who? Small children. Hanuman, Ganesh, Krishna. If I am not wrong. Hanuman, Ganesh, Krishna, all children playing. What, Krishna is small and Hanuman is also small? What nonsense is going on here? Oh, cute. Oh, people will like cartoon, and that way they will become spiritual. They will learn about Ganesh. They will chant Ganesh. They will chant Hanuman. They think it is very spiritual, doing a very noble thing. Destroying the whole thing. And I think Mahaprabhu was mentioning in one of those episodes, they were even Bhima was breaking eggs. He just will go anywhere and anyhow, just whatever they want. There is no sanctity. It is this is sacred. This is descriptions of historical descriptions, not some whimsical history or some contorted, distorted history that is useless for all practical purposes. But this is history related with Krishna and his devotees. Bhima is a great devotee. He's not just some idiotic fool who is just doing nonsense things. He is a devotee, and he has a friendship rasa with Krishna. How can they show a pure devotee like that? Narad Muni is eternally depicted as a joker in the movies. Narad Muni, who is one of the greatest devotees in the universe, travels all over the universe, who made many other Mahajans by himself alone. He is portrayed as a joker. This is our so-called Sanatan Dharma followers. All rascals of the highest order. You see, this is happening. So here Narad Muni is saying they will be attracted to this politics, economics and philanthropic activities mentioned in Mahabharata than to the principal topic, namely the Bhagavad Gita. This compromising spirit of Vyasadeva is directly condemned by Narada, who advised him to directly proclaim that the prime necessity of human life is to realize one's eternal relation with the Lord and thus surrender unto Him without delay. Surrender unto Him. That is the real message. A patient suffering from a particular type of malady is almost always inclined to accept eatables which are forbidden for him. The expert physician does not make any compromise with the patient by allowing him to take partially what he should not at all take. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that a man attached to fruitive work should not be discouraged from his occupation, for gradually he may be elevated to the position of self-realization. This is sometimes applicable for those who are only dry empiric philosophers without spiritual realization. But those who are in the devotional line need not be always so advised. Again, this is referring to Bhagavad Gita 3.26 and 3.29, where Krishna says, don't disturb those who are materially engrossed. But devotee is here, Prabhupada is saying, this is sometimes applicable for those who are only dry empiric philosophers without spiritual realization. For them, this advice is there. Okay, don't disturb the materialists. But those who are in the devotional line need not be always so advised. Because they know the real purpose of the Lord, and they are also empowered by the Lord how to change this person. Otherwise, Narad Muni should not have disturbed that Mrigari. Hare, he is doing his half killing. Never mind, don't disturb him. I should follow Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna, and I should just close one eye and go somewhere else. No, he went, he preached to him, he made him break his bow and arrows, made him chant the Hare Krishna, made him a devotee just like that. So they know how to do it. They are empowered to do it, and they know the real mission of the Lord. The Lord does not wish that the people, his own children, would keep on continuing in this material way of life, committing sinful activities. When the Lord says, don't disturb them, because they are not empowered to change them. But a devotee empowered by the Lord is able to change such people. So that's why Prabhupada said, those on the devotional line need not be always so advised. So he asked Vyasadeva to write properly. Then he wrote the Bhagavatam only about devotional service. That's it. The whole focus is Krishna and his devotees and devotional service. Nothing else. So when the happy moment came, when he realized all of this, Vaipana Rishi became doubtful about the rules and methods of Karmakanda and vain Jnanakanda. See, he understood that he became doubtful of the rules and regulations of. He thought, wow, this is how are they going to give the highest good? He became totally doubtful of all the procedures he had earlier mentioned in the Vedas. In reply to the question of his spiritual preceptor, Sri Narada Goswami, he said, O Lord, no doubt I have realized all the truths you have advised, still my soul, I know not why, finds no contentment. O son of Brahma, be kind to tell me the unimaginable and indescribable secret that lurks behind it. I beg this of you, because being greatly troubled at heart. So this is in the beginning where he asked Narad Muni, I know not why. I don't know why that means. Although I have written everything, I find no contentment. O son of Brahma, please be kind to me and tell me the unimaginable and indescribable secret that lurks behind it. I beg this of you, being greatly troubled at heart. Then Narada Goswami replied, O Vyasa, you have not striven to give as vivid a picture of the pure spiritual pastimes of Bhagavan as you have in the Vedanta Sutras and Mahabharata of the four main objects of human pursuit, viz. Virtue, wealth, enjoyment and salvation. That means, in other words, he's saying you have given so much importance to the four main objects of human pursuit, which is dharma, virtue, artha, wealth, kama, enjoyment, and salvation, moksha. You have given so much emphasis to these four through your Vedanta Sutras and Mahabharata and all that, but you did not give as vivid or as clear a picture of the pure spiritual pastimes of Bhagavan. It is due to this shortcoming of yours that you enjoy no contentment. In other words, if one preaches something that is not Krishna consciousness, if one talks and is not Krishna conscious subject, he will actually not be satisfied. Especially one who knows the truth and he still does not do it. He will be even more dissatisfied with what he does. That's why I am sure Gaur Gopal Das, who is preaching all this nonsense, he knows Krishna consciousness, but he still speaks nonsense. So he actually cannot be content in his heart. He may make a show as much as possible that he is content and he is this and that. We believe Narad Muni. Okay, we don't believe whatever he says. He is talking nonsense. So this is the real thing. So it is due to this shortcoming of yours that you enjoy no contentment. Therefore you have committed a great and heavy omission by giving too high an eulogy too high a eulogy of castes and stages as the religion of the soul. What is castes and stages? This is the varnashrama dharma. Varna is the castes and the ashrama is the stages, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasa. So 4 social and spiritual orders. You have given too high an eulogy. Eulogy means praise. You have praised the process of varnashram system as the religion of the soul. But you have omitted this bhakti and paramapurushartha, which is devotional service. If anyone, leaving aside such a conventional religion of the self, engages himself in the service of Hari, but slips before reaching the goal, he suffers no loss to speak of. This is Tyaktva Swadharmam Charanambujam Hare Bhajana Pakvotha Patetato Yadi Yatrakva Bhadram Abhudamushyakim Kovartha Apto Abhajatam Swadharmataha. Kovartha Apto Bhajatam Swadharmataha. So 1.5.17, he says, what loss is there if one who has taken to Krishna consciousness in full earnestness and then later on desists due to worldly mindedness? There is no loss for such person. On the contrary, if he strictly sticks to conventional religion, what is conventional religion? The varnashram system and all the materialistic religion. If he strictly sticks to conventional religion but being utterly unmindful of Hari Bhajan, what worthy and exalted goal can he attain thereby? 1.5.17 and 1.5.18. This is the verse. These are the verses. It is clear from the above that there is no second help but Hari Bhajan or Krishna consciousness, worship of Hari. So, there is nothing that will help but Hari Bhajan. There is no second help. Hari Bhajan will help, this also will help. No, nothing else will help, only Hari Bhajan will help. If we have taken any other form of activity, that will only be successful with Hari Bhajan or worship of Hari. Without that, no. A Jīva can attain his highest goal if he embraces the holy name as the means to Hari. So in other words, only Hari, Hari Bhajan, the Krishna consciousness, through the chanting of the holy name is the only means to Hari. And that is the highest goal. Not just dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Even moksha is not the highest. More than that is bhakti. Vyasadeva then followed up this bhakti yoga by absorbing himself in an easy meditation on Godhead. Easy, quote unquote easy, is used here to show that devotion to Krishna is most innate in the Jivatma. Because it is an inherent and eternal religion of the Jivas, it is called the easy universal religion of every Jiva. So what is the meaning of easy here? The most natural thing for a Jiva to do is to absorb himself in the meditation of Godhead. That is the most natural thing for him to do. And to do this kleshodhikatrastesham avyakta asakta chetasam, the impersonal endeavor to impersonal realization, that is fraught with so much trouble because it is against his natural tendency of loving Krishna. So this is easy. It is not that it is very easy. As you will see, by the end of this chapter, we will very well realize there is nothing easy. There is so much high we have to climb to attain the perfection. But if this is difficult, the impersonal thing is way more difficult, and the status that we will attain after such difficulty is very feeble and very fickle, and we can drop from that anywhere. It's not a very solid ground, So it's not worth it. Take more trouble and achieve a much more fragile position compared to a much easier process and get the most solid position. So easy in that way. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhyaka Bhunai Shravanadha Shuddha Sitya Koraya Udai. So Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema, love of Krishna, is innate in everyone's heart. But by hearing and chanting is just awakened. It is in slumberous position now. We are in slumber. That whole thing is in slumber now. So, because it is an inherent and eternal religion of every Jiva, its workings develop in the following manner. So, So how does this bhakti evolve in a person? So its workings develop in the following manner. When jivas come to realize that the path of karma does not give them eternal good, whether it be the 18 inferior karma yoga or the 8 subtle processes of yajna, neither can ever lead him to the highest goal, service to Krishna, which is their soul's religion. Or again, when they are fully convinced that there is not the least chance to attain perpetual happiness by mundane wisdom or limited knowledge that aims at the spiritual kingdom, both gained by endeavor of the subtle frame of mind, ego, etc., finding no shore to catch, they thus, by the grace of sadhus and the spiritual preceptor, cry out to Krishna from the deepest recesses of their heart. O Krishna, O you deliverer of the fallen, although I am your eternal servant, I am fallen into the deep abyss of the world and am badly dashed from shore to shore by its drowning waves of troubles and tribulations. Take me up, my Lord, to the shade of the cool dust of your lotus feet. O have mercy on his wretched self. Then the all-merciful Lord lovingly takes all jivas up to his feet. So I hope you understood, although it's quite a mouthful of English there, again. When the jivas come to realize that the path of karma does not give them eternal good, so they understand, when they are at a point where they understand this karmic lifestyle is not, whether it be the 18 inferior karma yoga, but I don't know what is this 18 constituents of karma yoga. Maybe there is a verse somewhere, of course, I think, because otherwise how did he say that? Or the 8 subtle processes of yajna, and I don't know what those 8 subtle processes are. I think it's a yoga process, Ashtanga yoga, if I'm not wrong, but it's mentioned yajna here, which is again yajna also, because it's a sacrifice for the pleasure of the Lord. I don't know if it's referring to that or something else. But anyway, whether it is karma, jnana, yoga, so neither can ever lead them to the highest goal, service of Krishna, which is their soul's religion. Or again, so the first two are the karma and yoga, and then again, when they are fully convinced that there is not the least chance to attain perpetual happiness by mundane wisdom or limited knowledge that aims at the spiritual kingdom. So by material knowledge or by even impersonal knowledge, there is not the slightest chance to have perpetual happiness. When one understands these things, when one understands that karmic lifestyle does not give us the real thing, then finding no shore to catch, they cannot find solid ground anywhere where there is perpetual happiness. They thus, by the grace of sadhus and the spiritual preceptor, means a guru, by the mercy of sadhu and gurus, cry out to Krishna from the deepest recesses of their heart. They come to the point of bhakti and they take to it seriously, and then they will cry out to Krishna, O Krishna, you deliverer of the fallen souls, although I am your eternal servant, I am fallen into the deep abyss of this world. Abyss means the seabed, the rock bottom. And am badly dashed from shore to shore by its drowning waves of troubles and tribulations. Take me up, my Lord, to the shade of the cool dust of your lotus feet. Have mercy on this wretched self. Then the all-merciful Lord lovingly takes all jivas up to his feet. When with sincere thrills of joy and tears trickling down their cheeks, they constantly chant, hear and remember the name of Krishna, they gradually reach the stage of bhava. Now, we are honestly not even halfway, I think, into this chapter. Do you know this? And it's already 9:40. I think we have to take it to Saturday, the rest of this chapter. I can go on. I don't have a problem, but I don't think you will be able to sit for that long. It's quite long, actually. So you let me know in the comments, what do you think? Shall we go on for some time more, another hour, or let's stop here? Please let me know. When with sincere thrills of joy and tears trickling down their cheeks, they constantly chant, hear and remember the name of Krishna, they gradually reach the stage of bhava. Appearing in their heart, Krishna erases all stain from their mind. Having thus cleansed their heart graciously, he blesses them with his own Prema. Extreme humbleness and utter devotion are necessary to call Krishna to the heart. Then, when earthly knowledge, reasoning and striving are completely burned to ashes, the soul's eyes can perceive Bhagavan and his associated counterparts. If after discarding the company of asat fellows, non-devotees, those who are attached to the fair sex and those who are non-devotees of Krishna, one embraces the company of the good or Sat or devotees, before long he attains firm faith and then through the stages of Nishtha etc. reaches the ladder of Bhava. Those whose hearts are crooked will beyond any doubt stumble downwards to hell. Sami is saying 1 more hour please. Either way is okay with us. According to your preference we can decide. Okay, you asked for it. Let's go. Prabhuji, on Saturday BV is approaching. That's another thing. Okay, we will go. We will go as far as we can. Okay, but be ready for a long haul today. It's quite a lengthy chapter, and the English is quite complicated here, and the subject matter is also so elevated. So all three together is like, but of course it's very necessary, right? So okay, we'll go forward. So I think this paragraph you've understood. Fair sex and those who are not devotees of Krishna, one embraces the company of. So when when we give up all the material processes and then give up the company of non-devotees, take to the company of devotees, and sincerely take to this path, then one goes through the stages of Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, and then Bhava. Those whose hearts are crooked will beyond any doubt stumble downwards toward hell. The fortunate ones who earnestly long to ascend the terrace of Prema. Prema is described here as the terrace. Terrace means there is nothing higher than that. Terrace is like the topmost part of the building, right? So, the fortunate ones who earnestly long to ascend the terrace of Prema do sincerely and incessantly chant the name of Krishna in the company of sadhus. In other words, we have to go chant incessantly in the company of sadhus, in the company of devotees. They do not have any appetite for any other feature of devotion. When in a short time, by the grace of the holy name, the heart becomes closely attentive, the fruits of religious forbearance, control over sensual appetites, religious observances, withholding the breath by way of religious austerity, abstract religious contemplation, steady abstraction of the mind, and indifference to external impressions are very, very easily gained without paying the least heed to any of these. So all other good qualities automatically come into the person of the devotee. The holy name alone, when does that happen? When we take to the heart becomes closely attentive to the holy name as we're chanting. And not only as we're chanting, always chanting. Always being constantly aware of the holy name. Always thinking of the holy name and chanting and thinking of Krishna like that. Being Krishna conscious, in other words. The holy name alone is a complete suspension of the fleeting mental operations. How is being described? The English is like, wow. The holy name alone is a complete suspension of the fleeting mental operations. So, Cetah prangana sangini vijayate sarvendriyanam kritim no jane janita ki adbhiramritai krishneti varnadvai tunde tandavani ratim vitanute tundavali labdhaye karnakrodakadambini ghatayate karnarbudebhyah spriham. This verse by Rupa Goswami says when the holy name is chanted, I want millions of tongues, I want millions of ears. When the holy name dances in the courtyard of the heart, all the senses become inert. So that is mentioned here. You see, the suspension of fleeting mental operations. Cetah prangana sangini vijayate sarvendriyanam kritim. So it suspends all the fleeting mental operations. The more the heart is transparent, the more the diverse pastimes of the spiritual kingdom play in it. The more it is opaque, the more it is not, the spiritual pastimes are not enlivened in or visible in one's own heart. Santas sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti. So they always see, the devotees always see the yam shama sundaram achintya guna svarūpam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So the devotees always see the pastimes in the form of Govinda, Shyamsundar, and that is because their heart is fully transparent. The more the heart is transparent, the more the diverse pastimes of the spiritual kingdom play inside, like a TV show, like that, like a video, like that. And video is only audio and video, seeing and hearing, but they experience everything. It's like a, nowadays these virtual reality sets are coming out. But that is actual reality. This body itself is a virtual reality. Our real reality is in the spiritual world. So anyway, the more the heart is transparent, the more the diverse pastimes of the spiritual kingdom play in it. The flow of the milk of this happiness is so very fast running that no other means can give even the smallest drop of it. So no other process other than this devotion, the holy name, other than the holy name, can give even the smallest drop of it. So chanting is so powerful that when we do it properly, then everything, all this happiness, a whole access to the spiritual pastimes of the Lord we can have. Just like nowadays there are so many Netflix shows, and you have to buy the subscription, and then you have access to all those shows in the Netflix, all the so-called quote unquote pastimes shown in the Netflix. You have to purchase a subscription. So if you want to subscribe to the eternal pastime Leela shows of the Lord in the heart, which is Goloka Flix, whatever you want to call it, Vaikuntha Flix. So for that membership, for that subscription, we have to chant the holy name every day. We have to pay with holy name. It's like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, I will eat only in the house of a Lakshapati, like Karodpati, Lakshapati, one who has 1 lakh. Every devotee was like very despondent. Wow, who is so rich? We are all poor people. Nitya Flix. Oh, this is very good. Netflix. Radhika Sakhi Mataji is saying Nitya Flix. Yeah, this is Nitya Flix. So the Nitya Leela is going on of the Lord. So to subscribe to that, we have to chant the holy, pay with the holy name. For example, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was saying, I will only eat in the house of a Lakshapati. So everybody was like, wow, we are not rich. Then he said, no, I don't mean the money Laksha, 1 lakh of rupees, which is 100,000 rupees. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about 1 lakh names every day. That means 64 rounds of the Hare Krishna mantra every day. Anybody who chants less than that, I am not going to eat in his house. So everybody took up the vow of chanting 64 rounds so that he may come to their house to eat. So in that way he made everybody do like that. So that is the payment, that is the money, that is the currency with which we buy a subscription to the eternal Nitya Leela Flix. So the Jīva should desire no other wealth than this grace of Krishna. The holy name is spiritual. Wisdom, vows, meditation, abnegation, that means renunciation, or non-indulgence in material sense objects, mental quietness, virtue, contrivance, I think that's how it's pronounced. Let's see. We're learning a lot of English today.
Contrivance.
I think you heard that. Contrivance. The use of skill to create or bring about something, especially with the consequent effect of artificiality. Example: the requirements of the system by happy chance and some contrivance can be summed up in an acronym. A device, especially in literary or artistic composition, which gives a sense of artificiality. Okay, so contrivance. So what does it mean in this context actually? The use of skill to create or bring about something. Okay, I think something like creativity, contrivance, resourcefulness, I think. Shauryam tejo dhritir dakshyam. Daksham means resourcefulness, expert in the Kshatriya qualities, 1843 of Bhagavad Gita. Resourcefulness is there. So I think contrivance means that. It also is used in the sense of contrivance means, by some scheming, through some device, show something else to be the fact, which is not actually a fact. Contrivance, sometimes we use like that. Anyway, so none of these can ever equal the name. So wisdom, vows, meditation, abnegation, mental quietness, none of these can ever equal the name. Know it for certain that the holy name is the highest salvation. Okay, I think this verse is there. Go koti danam grahane khagasya prayaga gangodaka kalpavasaham yajñāyutam meru suvarna danam Govinda kirter nasamam satam shayhim. Even if one distributes 10 million cows in charity during an eclipse of the sun, lives at the confluence of the Ganges and Yamuna for millions of years, or gives a mountain of gold in sacrifice to the Brahmanas, he does not earn 100th part of the merit derived from chanting Hare Krishna. So they can never ever compare, not even close. So know it for certain that the holy name is the highest salvation, the holy name is the highest end, the holy name is the noblest and final beatitude or final ecstasy or perfection. Beatitude, let's again be very sure of the meaning. I think it's ecstasy. Yeah. Supreme blessedness. The expression of beatitude the religious sometimes adopt. Ecstasy, actually. Ecstasy. The holy name is the noblest and final beatitude. The holy name is eternally existing eternally. The holy name alone is the supermost devotion. The holy name is the highest intellect. The holy name is the topmost preeti, and the holy name is the brightest remembrance. The holy name is the seed, and the holy name is the fruit to jivas. The holy name is their Lord, and the holy name alone is the supermost object of their worship. The holy name is their preceptor. I am sure this will be so nice to hear in Bengali, the actual verse of it. I don't have the Bengali book here, it is actually downstairs. So anyway, I think in Bengali it will look very nice. Nāma, everything about the Nāma, I think will be quite nice to hear. The Vedas have described the spirituality of the name of Krishna to be the highest truth. I think this is from the prayers of the personified Vedas in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I think, I'm not sure. So because that is where Vedas are actually speaking. Stota Vedas, Stota Vedaha. The Vedas are the paraginist. How is it pronounced? Paraginist. One who is a flatterer of a king in court. They offer nice prayers to glorify the king. Paraginist. Let me just take you to that verse. Dharavara karavara sutta te tanujo virinchim stota vedas tava suragana bhritya varga prasadam muktir maya jagada vikalam tavaki devaki te mata mitram balaripusutas tattvadanyam na jani. Stota, praiser. Paraginist, where is that? Panegyrist. Okay, let me see actually how it's pronounced. I'm sorry, but I'm taking up your time. But I can't be satisfied when I read something and I don't know how to pronounce or understand what I'm reading. So I have this obsessive compulsion to know what it is. A panegyric. How do you even pronounce this? Panegyrist. There's no... How do you pronounce that?
Panegyric.
Panegyrist. That means the praiser. Okay, the one who praises. Okay. The Vedas are the praiser of the Lord, and in Srimad Bhagavatam, 87th chapter of the 10th canto, there are beautiful prayers to the Lord. And they have a very unique meter which I have not found anywhere else. Again, a little bit of a tangent, but I'll just show you one of these verses. Aparimitam dhruvastanubhrito 1087:30 for example. Aparimita dhruvastanubhrito yadi sarvagatas tarhi na shasyate niyamo dhravane taratha ajanichayanmayam tadavimucya niyantra bhavet samamanujantam yadamatam matadushthataya. So it's a very nice tune. I actually like it. I actually concocted this tune by myself. I mean, that sounded like the most, natural tune when I tried to chant it. I just made it up. So anyway, the whole series of verses are in this tune by the Vedas. I think maybe one of them, I did not memorize these verses, so I don't know, maybe if one of them are the verses which is describing the holy name, but here it is, the translation. This is in the Harināma Cintāmaṇi. The Vedas have described the spirituality of the name of Krishna to be the highest truth. O Lord, this is how they have glorified. O Lord, we have reasonably judged your name to be higher than the highest, and so we chant your holy name. Nāma Bhajana is not bound by any rule. The holy name is beyond all virtuous acts. He is spiritual, he is virility and luster in a person. By the way, if any of you can find that verse in the prayers of the personified Vedas about the holy name, please, maybe it will be in a different English, but if something about the name, if you can find, maybe you can share in the comments and I can show it up here. So we'll move on. Your name to be the higher than the highest, and so we chant your holy name. Nam Bhajan is not found by any rule. The holy name is beyond all virtuous acts. He is spiritual, he is virility and luster in a person. Again we come across this word virility. I don't know what it is. The quality of having strength, energy.
Virility.
Supreme strong, that means. He is spiritual, he is virility and luster in a person. He is the strength and luster in a person. All the Vedas have been manifested from this holy name. Look at that. The Vedas are expansions of the holy name. That's why the entire Vedas are, Vidyavadhu Jivanam. This Shikshashtakam, first sloka. Vidyavadhu Jivanam, Sankirtan, the holy name is described as Vidyavadhu Jivanam. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It is the essence of all transcendental knowledge. In fact, it is the source of all transcendental knowledge. Because the holy name and the Lord are non-different, and all knowledge is coming from the Lord. So therefore coming from the holy name. And therefore it is the condensed form of the entire knowledge. So anybody who is chanting the holy name is actually, therefore, is understood to have already read all the Vedas. All the Vedas have been manifested from this holy name. The holy name is bliss. The holy name is Ananda. We can excellently be devoted to Him. The holy name is worship and is to be worshipped. See that? The holy name is worship and is to be worshipped. We have to worship the holy name by chanting the holy name. It is the means to worship and it is the end of all worship. It is a recipient of that worship. Vishaya is Krishna. Ashraya is the devotee. Your feet are to be held in veneration. Repeatedly we fall prostrate at your lotus feet and anoint our bodies with the pollen thereof. In order to lead the soul to its highest state, Vedas are saying this, okay? Try to understand. Vedas are saying this to Krishna. Your feet are to be held in veneration. Repeatedly we fall prostrate at your lotus feet and anoint our bodies with the pollen thereof. It means the Vedas are strewn with the pollen of flowers offered at the lotus feet of the Lord, the saffron particles, and those particles are emanating from the mouths of the pure devotees who are glorifying the Lord. And such is the description of this verse in Srimad Bhagavatam 4:20-25. It's a very nice verse actually. Sa uttama shlokamahannmukhachuto bhavat padam bhoja sudhakana smritim punarvismrita tattvavartmanam kuyoginam no vitaratyalam varaihi. My dear Lord, you are glorified by the selected verses uttered by great personalities. Such glorification of your lotus feet is just like saffron particles. Just now the Vedas are saying, all this pollen is strewn, we take the pollen from your feet. And that is manifested in words. And those words are emanating from the mouths of the devotees. And that flavor of that saffron dust of the lotus feet of the Lord is spread across the world by the preaching of those devotees. And thus, people can be attracted to the lotus feet of Krishna through the preachings, through the message of the Vedas, of especially Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the essence of all Vedas. So when the transcendental vibration from the mouths of great devotees carries the aroma of the saffron dust of your lotus feet, the forgetful living entity gradually remembers his eternal relationship with you. Devotees thus gradually come to the right conclusion about the value of life. My dear Lord, I therefore do not need any other benediction but the opportunity to hear from the mouth of your pure devotee. Look at that. So it all matches, you see, how nicely it matches. The Vedas are saying, we take the pollen, and the devotees, they actually spread the saffron dust and the pollen through their preachings. Just like the wind carries the pollen far away from the plant, and the seeds go somewhere else, and then the plant grows there. So similarly, the devotees, make sure the pollen of the flowers of Krishna's lotus feet go far and wide through their preaching, and then there the seeds can grow and then fructify, and then people can become devotees in every part of the nook and corner of the universe. And Srila Prabhupada did that. He went to all countries and did that. Narad Muni does that all over the universe. So repeatedly we fall prostrate at your lotus feet and anoint our bodies with the pollen thereof. In order to lead the soul to its highest stage, devotees mutually discuss the holy name and sing his glories. They believe your name to be Chaitanya in person and always sing and hear Kirtan, which is identical with your name. They are purified by it. The holy name alone is Sat, or ever existing. Even the Sikh community, the Punjabi community, they also say Satnam Vaheguru. Satnam. The holy name alone is Sat. Satnam. Even Hindus in North India, they say Ram Naam Satya Hai. Everything else is mithya hai. Everything else is false. Nothing is true in this world. It's just temporary. They are not realities. Temporary illusions. So, Sat, ever existing. The holy name alone is Sat, or ever existing. The essence of the Vedas is the holy name. Who is the absolute truth, and whose form is Satchidananda. Sat, ever existing, Chit, knowing, and Ananda, all bliss. O Vishnu, it is only by the grace of your name that we are capable of offering these hymns to you. Because of the grace of the name, the Vedas are having nice shlokas to glorify the Lord, because they themselves have come from the holy name, which is nothing but glorification of the Lord. And every other shloka is actually an expansion of the holy name. Every other authorized shloka glorifying the Lord is an expansion of the holy name. So we should adore and pray to your holy name alone. The Vedas are saying this. So I think devotees have not found that verse from the 18th chapter, if I'm getting it right. So I don't know where it is from, but somewhere it is from. In his own 8 glorious precepts, that means the Shikshashtaka, Sriman Mahaprabhu has spoken of the glories of the holy name. He has also given a glimpse of the gradual steps of Nāma Bhajana in those 8 precepts. His shloka beginning with "Consider yourself humbler than the grass," shloka starting with "Trinadapi Sunishana," hints at how to adore the holy name after avoiding the 10 offenses. This method of quoting a shloka, saying the shloka beginning with "Trinadapi Sunishana," that was how they used to refer to shlokas. They don't refer to like Bhagavad Gita 1866 or no, the shloka starting with "Sarvadharman Parityajya." They refer to, I have seen even in Chaitanya Charitamrita sometimes, the shloka says, the shloka beginning with this line, these words. So in that way it is referred. The numbers are never really mentioned. But of course, when in our convenience we have given the numbers, easier to remember. I mean, not easy actually. In fact, it's more confusing than the Sanskrit. If you know the Sanskrit, is much better, in fact. But if you know the number on top of that, that's even better, because you can immediately take it out and then you can actually quote number, chapter, verse. Just like a lawyer knows his law books, article number, section number, so and so, and then previous case, ruling, precedents, and all these things. He quotes different references to make his case. Similarly, we have to know where is what. So consider yourself humbler than so in that shloka beginning with "Consider yourself humbler than the grass," he hints at how to adore the holy name after avoiding the 10 offenses. His shloka follows "or money I want not, nadhanam najanam na sundarim," speaks of the selflessness of Nāma Bhajana in a devotional spirit, devotion unactuated by any lustful motive. The shloka, "O son of Nanda, I Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram," tells us how to make a plaintive report to the Lord. We would say Shikshashtaka number 5, Shikshashtaka number 3, number 4, like that. The last 2 shlokas describe the process of Vraja Bhajana, where one loves Krishna to serve him either in Sambhoga union or in Vipralambharasa, deeper union in separation. Or in both after being completely and spontaneously attached to Srimati Radha. The Shastras have eulogized so highly and so often the glories of the holy name that their number is legion. I think legion means maybe infinite, I'm guessing. A vast number of people or things, great in number. Yeah. Wow. What kind of number? What kind of words? I mean, instead of saying numerous or voluminous or something like that. Anyway, the Shastras have eulogized so highly and so often the glories of the holy name that their number is legion. To describe them is to write a big volume like the Sri Hari Bhakti Vilas. So we hardly have any more space in this small volume to discuss them at length. So all the compilation of the shlokas glorifying the holy name, we don't have space in this book, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying. Thus, stopping here with the glories of the holy name, we attempt a very short survey of the processes of Nāma Bhajana. Now, it looks like a conclusion, right? No. There's so much more still. We are at already 10:10. Devotees who are desirous of ascending the terrace of Prema should remember a few points even before entering the field of Nāma Bhajana. Firstly, they should know for certain that the form of Krishna, the form of Krishna's name, the form of service to Krishna, and the form of Krishna's servants are eternally free. Krishna's Rūpa, Nāma, Seva, and Bhakta are eternally free, eternally spiritual. Krishna, his abode and paraphernalia are all spiritual and beyond the grasp of Maya, the illusory energy. No mundane consideration exists in seva or service. The seat, room, garden, forest, Yamuna river and every other thing of Krishna are spiritual and hence untouchable by matter. They are further aware of the fact that this belief is not a blind worldly faith, it is absolutely true and eternal. The exact forms of all these do not in truth manifest on this earth. Such ideas may perpetually reign in the pure heart of pure devotees. That means Ordinarily, we may see the Yamuna, oh, industries are pouring their wastewater into Yamuna and then polluting it and all that. That's how we see it. But the spiritual vision we don't have. So a pure devotee does not see all these things. He sees the pure Yamuna, and Krishna on the banks of Yamuna, the pure, the gardens of, Vrindavan and everything. So a pure devotee has access to such vision. Again, Nitya Flix, subscription. If you want to subscribe to Nitya Leela Flix, then one has to chant the holy name and become perfect in that. Then he can view all these things. Otherwise, there is no subscription, then you cannot see. Oh, I cannot see the show. You cannot see because you have no subscription in the Netflix. Similarly, here also. So the exact forms of these do not in truth manifest on this earth. Such ideas may perpetually reign in the pure heart of pure devotees. Here, the fruit of all these spiritual practices is self-realization. The fruit of all these spiritual practices is self-realization. Those who have realized the form of Krishna as well as their own self do before long attain Vastu Siddhi, enter the eternal pastimes of Krishna in the spiritual kingdom and gain personal service of Krishna. So, those who have realized the form of Krishna as well as their own self, they attain to this, they enter into the eternal pastimes of Krishna. Here in this world, devotees can only get a glimpse of those immaterial things. The first stage to it is freedom from the bondage of Maya. The climax is Prema. First stage is freedom of bondage, freedom from bondage to Maya. The climax is Prema. So it's a long journey from that. Even though it is a very high thing, being free from bondage of Maya, even that is only just a starting point in the real spiritual success. The realization of truths that are beyond the grasp of matter is called Svarūpa Siddhi. This is true knowledge of the relationship between Krishna and the Jivas, and when this is acquired, the endeavor for Prema as a means and Prema as an object of pursuit are gained. So this is true knowledge of the relationship between Krishna and Jivas. When we understand our relationship with Krishna, when this is acquired, the endeavor for Prema as a means and Prema as an object of pursuit are gained. So one engages in Krishna's service as a means to nourish his relationship with Krishna, and that relationship is nothing but Prema. So he engages in devotional service to attain what? To attain perfection in devotional service. So the Prema is the means, Prema is the object of pursuit also. The means of pursuit and the object of pursuit are the same. The spiritual region of Krishna, that means the abode of Krishna, his spiritual name, his divine attributes and spiritual pastimes, that means Nāma, Dhāma, Guna and Leela, all these bring the necessary object of pursuit, all of these being the necessary object of pursuit, come under Prema. This is delineated in the Prashna. Again, another Upanishad is quoted that is delineating the highest bhakti. So he is saying, because Mayavadis, they quote always these Upanishads and they come to some Mayavadi conclusion, impersonal. But here he is quoting so many Upanishads and saying this Upanishad, this is mentioned, this Upanishad, that is mentioned. All about the highest thing, but in a very hidden way. That's why Narad Muni chastised Vyasadeva. You write directly, why indirect? The holy name, so moving on, the holy name has been accepted in all respects to be an incarnation of Krishna on this earth. Kalikala Nāma Krishna avatar. Although he seems to be just a word, see, he came in the word incarnation. He can incarnate as a word. Although he seems to be just a word, still by his unimaginable powers, you notice the, what is that? Pronoun. Yeah. Nowadays this is very common, especially those in the this transsexual movement. They say, oh, my preferred pronoun is so and so and so and so. So for a non-living thing, usually we say it. But here it is mentioned, the holy name has been accepted in all respects to be an incarnation of Krishna on earth, although he seems to be just a word. He, not it, although it seems to be just a word. Sometimes we also referred to as it. But here it is he. Sometimes The holy name is addressed as Nāma Prabhu, Shri Nāma Prabhu. The Lord in the form of the name, Shri Nāma Prabhu, Harināma Prabhu. So, although he seems to be just a word, still by his, the pronoun is his and he, Although he seems to be just a word, still by his unimaginable powers, he is spiritual and is a special incarnation of Krishna. Pranava Sarva Vedeshu, Om is also similarly. Of course, Krishna is more direct. As Krishna and his name are identical, Krishna has descended to the earth as the holy name. So, Krishna's name is the first introduction to Krishna. With determination to reach Krishna, Jivas must first accept the name of Krishna. If you want to accept Krishna, if you can't even accept his name, what are you accepting? You're not even begun to accept him yet. So if somebody says he's a devotee but he does not chant Krishna's name, he's not a devotee, he's not even accepted the name as his life and soul. That is the introduction to Krishna. Like, what is your name? We usually introduce ourselves, what is your name? So the very name of Krishna we don't want to accept on our tongues. How are we going to accept Krishna? Of course, Krishna's name is Krishna himself. That's the way he is introduced to us by himself. And if you don't want to accept that, then what kind of devotee we are? So a real devotee will always chant. Of course, Arjuna was also a devotee. He was not chanting, he was working for Krishna. But again, that is not different from chanting. By following the order of Krishna, it's not different from chanting. So of course, he's always calling Krishna, of course, that is also there. I mean, he's always, glorifying Krishna. He's always with Krishna. I mean, how can he be not with Krishna? So anyway, with determination to reach Krishna, Jivas must first accept the name of Krishna. In attempting to determine the significance and origin of Harināma, Sri Gopal Guru Goswami, the dearest disciple of Sri Svarūpa Damodar Goswami, writes. Now here, there is a long explanation by Gopal Guru Goswami. So remember this name, because he mentions a very important, very interesting point about the word Hare in the Mahamantra. So I have also been thinking about that. So he also mentions that. So Sri Gopal Guru Goswami, the dearest disciple of Sri Svarūpa Damodar Goswami, who is the personal secretary of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he writes, Blessed are they, no doubt, who utter Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, even with indifference. Helana. Even with Helana, if you chant, even they are more blessed. Even they are very blessed. This verse was culled from the Agni Puran, means was taken from Agni Puran. Those who chant the holy name are free from every spot of sin, Brahmana Puran. These utterings of Hare Krishna coming out from the lips of Sri Chaitanya inundated the whole world with a flood of Prema. Glory be to the holy name by his will. Hence, Sriman Mahaprabhu has mentioned, this is unquote, it's already the quote of Gopal Guru Goswami. Again he will mention, but that is the end of the quote. Hence, Sriman Mahaprabhu, as mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, himself sang and taught Jivas to count these 16 names of 32 syllables on tulsi beads. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sankhya Purvaka Nāma Gāna Natibhi. The Goswamis were counting not only their names, but also they counting how many times they were paying obeisances. They had a scheduled, they had a commitment. Like Raghunath Das Goswami, his commitment is that every day, apart from chanting 64 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he should bow down 1008 times to devotees. He must find 1008 devotees and bow down to them. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasandubhyascha patidanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So he will bow down to each and every devotee. 1008 every day. That is his commitment. Sankhya Purvaka Nāma Gāna, Natibhi means obeisances. So like that. There has to be a commitment. So Sankhya Purvaka. All our services should have such commitment. Okay, this much I have to do. This much I have to do. Like that. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself sang and taught Jivas to count these 16 names of 32 syllables on tulsi beads. 32 syllables means Hare Krishna. 8. And Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, again 8. 16. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. 8. Again Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. 32. 16 plus 16. Sri Gopal Guru Goswami explains these 16 names in the following way. At the utterance of Hari, all sins are washed from the heart. Now the word in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the 16 names, it's actually 3 names repeated. So Hari, Krishna and Rama. And sometimes it is Hara. Sri Prabhupada taught us Hara, Radharani. But it is Hare. Hari is also Hare in the vocative. Hara is also Hare in vocative. So it can refer to either. And both same. That's why it is said, oh, you're chanting 300,000 times, 300,000 names of the Lord, of Hari, Haridas Thakur. So I always used to think 300,000 names, but 16 of them are Krishna and Rama, and 16 of them are Radharani. So only half of them are Hari's name. I was thinking like this. So, but I mean, there is no difference between Radha, Krishna, Nahi, Anya. So whether you take it as Radharani, whether you take it as Hari, both are also true, and all of them are name of Krishna, counted as name of Krishna. So here he explains. So first of all, he explains the name Hare, that word Hare. So he starts with the explanation of Hari, and later on he mentions Hara, which is Radharani. So this is where actually the explanation is. When Prabhupada says Hara and Hare in vocative, Gopal Guru Goswami, the disciple of Svarūpa Damodar Goswami, is the one who has explained this explanation of the word Hara like that. So Gopal Guru Goswami explains the 16 names in the following way. Quote, at the utterance of Hari, all sins are washed from the heart of the wicked. You know, lion is also called Hari, one which steals from you. A thief is also called Hari. Apaharana means kidnapping. Harana is Hara. Hari, so one who takes away something. Thief is a Hari. Snake is a Hari. Something that grabs. Shark is sometimes known as Hari. Lion is sometimes known as Hari. Narahari, Narasimha. Nara and Simha. Nara means man, Simha is a lion. Narahari, what is Narahari? Man Hari, man Krishna? No, Hari in this sense means lion. So Narahari means man, human and lion, mixture form. Narasimha Dev. So in the beginning I did not understand. Actually very recently only understood. Couple of years or 3 years back or something like that. Narahari. Then I was actually thinking, why is called Narahari? Why his human-like form is it? No, it's not human-like form. Ram maybe, Narahari, Hari in the form of a Nara, or Krishna came in the human-like form, and Parshuram and Buddha and Kalki. And why particularly they are not called Narahari and Narasimhadev is not called Narahari? So, somewhere I came across this word Hari, a lion, mentioning lion, and snake, and a shark. So like that, something which grabs. So Hari. Vastraharan, Vastraharan, Leela, where Lord Krishna takes away the clothes of the gopis and sees them naked and fulfills their desire to have Krishna as their husband. So in that way, the Hari is there. So at the utterance of Hari, all sins are washed away from the heart of the wicked. So in the Chaurashtakam by Bilumangal Thakur, he says, you are a great thief, Hari. You are called Hari, you are taking away all the sins from those who are chanting your name. You are stealing away all their sinful reactions. So in that way he called him a thief, like that in many ways. So Hari means thief. So he steals in many ways. And Chaurashtakam is a beautiful song, written like that. So, at the utterance of Hari, all sins are washed away from the heart of the wicked. As the flame will burn the finger even though unconsciously thrust into fire, similarly, even the very casually pronounced holy name will burn every bit of sin within you. So, Prabhupada always gave this example. If you put your hand in fire, whether you know it or not, it will burn. Similarly, the holy name will act, whether you know it or not. But of course, how much it will act, depending on how far away we are from the fire. If you are actually within the fire, then it will burn completely. If far away, then you will just feel a little bit of heat, warmth, something like that, or a little bit of light, or a little bit of smoke from far away. You will just feel some smoke. That is the effect only we can feel of the fire. So, how far we are away from the accepting the holy name, surrendering to the holy name. So, but anyway, it will act. So, as the flame will burn the finger even though unconsciously thrust into fire, similarly, even the very casually pronounced holy name will. So, this explanation that Prabhupada used to give is actually explained by Gopal Guru Goswami and mentioned by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in this Harināma Cintāmaṇi book. Similarly, even the very casually pronounced holy name will burn every bit of sin within you. After that, holy name of the Lord manifests the absolute truth, whose form is Chidananda, spiritual and full of bliss, full of knowledge. It destroys avidya or illusion. Chit means knowledge, so achit or avidya means illusion. So when the holy name is chanted, it manifests the absolute truth in the form of Chidananda and destroys avidya or illusion and its works and all its plans. It destroys. All this is the work of Harināma. Or as he takes off the threefold pangs of miseries, distresses and afflictions, he is therefore called Hari, literally to steal away. Or Hari is so called because he drives out all the threefold distresses of every animate and inanimate being, or because the mind of the 14 worlds is charmed by hearing and singing the spiritual attributes of Hari. He steals the mind of all people who sing about him or glorify him. Who hear them, they are also charmed by the wonderful descriptions of Krishna, or even just by the name of Krishna. People, in the kirtan, they just feel happy because it's his name. It charms everyone in the 14 worlds. And that means whole universe. So that's another reason why he is called Hari. Or as he, by his exceeding beauty before the loveliness and beauty of 1,000 cupids, which causes these to hide their faces in shame, he also fascinates all men and incarnations, hence he is called Hari. So he is supremely attractive, hence he is called Hari. Because, Cupid, man, they say, oh, this woman stole my heart. Or this woman says, oh, this man stole my heart. So, I consider him as thief, oh, you stole my heart. So what is that actually? Cupid, stealing. But Cupids, thousands and millions of them are hiding their faces in shame compared to the beauty of Krishna and how much he is Madan Mohan. So he is fascinating all men and incarnations even. Even Mahavishnu wants to see him. And that's why he hid the 6 sons of the Brahmana and all of that. So, there's a whole leela with that. So, he also fascinates all men and incarnations, hence he is called Hari. He steals our attention. Which in the vocative case is pronounced Hare, in the vocative case. There's a vocative way of pronouncing it. So, when we're saying Hari, instead of saying Hari Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hari Hari, so Hare Krishna, in the vocative, vocal, saying like that. So, in the vocative case is pronounced Hare. Or again, according to the views of the Brahma Samhita, she who fascinates the mind of Hari by her Prema Svarūpa, attachments and love, is Hara, who captures or steals the heart of Hari, who captures the heart of everyone. Madan Mohan Mohini. And therefore she is Hara, she steals even Krishna's heart. So therefore, and Hara, she is also thief. And in the female it's Hara with a capital. Sorry, not capital, Dirgha. A with a line on top. That is female. Like Krishna. Krishna means Krishna. Arjuna is also called sometimes Krishna. But Draupadi is also called Kṛṣṇa. Krishna, A ki matra, Dirgh matra. So that is female. Krishna and Kṛṣṇa. Krishna means, sometimes I see the word, in Sanskrit, Hare Krishna. That is actually Draupadi's name. That's not Krishna's name. So it's a mistake. They don't know, I think. So Krishna is Krishna. Kṛṣṇa is Draupadi, is female. So like that, Hara is female. Hari is male. So she is also because she fascinates the mind of Hari by her Prema Svarūpa, attachments and love, is Hara, and in other words, Srimati Radhika, the daughter of Vrishabhanu. The vocative case of Hara is Hare, and Hari is Hare. In Kunti Devi's prayers, I think 1.8.24, she mentions Hare, and actually she mentions Krishna, Hari actually, in the vocative case. So, Hare is this or that. So, in either way, whichever we take it, there's no difference, because Radha Krishna Nahe Anya. They're not actually separated, they're one. So, of course, Prabhupada introduced her as Radha and Krishna. So, the meaning of Krishna according to the views of Agama is that this Krishna who is Ananda in form and attracts every object is Parabrahma. So now Hari or Hare, the word Hare is described. Now Krishna, Hare, Krishna and Rama, 3 words. So the meaning of Krishna according to the views of Agama is that this Krishna who is Ananda in form and attracts every object is Parabrahma. Krishna, when in the vocative case, is also Krishna. No, it does not change. The Agama says, O Goddess, all guilts and sinful motives vanish from the heart at the very sound of Ra. Okay, now Rama is being mentioned. Krishna is already mentioned as Ananda. Krishna and all attractive. Prabhupada also explained in very detail. And all sinful motives vanish from the heart at the very sound of Ra. And the door in the form of Ma is attached to it in order to shut out those evils and prevent them from re-entering the heart. So this is an example, a description from Gopal Guru Goswami. I thought this was some kind of a bogus description. In Vrindavan, they say Radhe Shyam. They have a meaning for that. Radhe. This is how they explain. I am not saying, I don't endorse that explanation. I don't know who actually came up with that explanation. But this explanation is something like close to that kind of thing. So there in the Vrindavan, one of the lecturers, one of the ISKCON devotees, who was contaminated with all these Vrajavasis and all this kind of, they're kind of some speculative kind of thing. So he was explaining Radhe. They say Radhe Shyam, and sometimes they elongate the word Radhe Shyam. They say like that in Vrindavan. So the explanation for that is Radha. In Sangeet, in music theory, Sa Re Ga Ma Pa Dha Ni Sa. Sa Re, Re comes second. Ga Ma Pa Dha. So Dha is the 6th. Radha, Radha. So Radhe. So Ra is at the bottom, Dha is on the top. So Radhe means all the sins in the deep recesses of our heart are being lifted from bottom to top. This is their explanation. I don't know where they got this. Radhe, that means all the sins are lifted up. And then Shyam. Shyam, they say fast. Radhe Shyam. So they close the mouth so that the sinful reactions don't re-enter in the heart. Sinful thoughts and sinful actions, reactions. So I was thinking, what kind of explanation is this? Come on. But this is so this is something like that actually. Yeah? But I'm not saying that is bona fide or not. But here Gopal Guru Goswami, who is a disciple of Svarūpa Damodar Goswami, seems to have mentioned this, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur has mentioned it. Therefore, we are honoring that explanation. There is truth to that. So I'm not saying Radhesham, but this Rama. So Ra, all guilts and sinful motives vanish from the heart at the very sound of Ra. There's a very interesting thing in Ramayana. When Ram shot the arrow at Maricha, demon, and he fell, the arrow threw him 800 miles away. The arrow was so powerful, of course it could have pierced him and then killed him straight, but Ram is powerful. You can do anything with the arrow. So the arrow actually took him and lifted him and threw him 800 miles into the sea, far away. Ever since then, Maricha had a great fear for Ram. In fact, if anybody says the word Ram, he trembles. In fact, not even Ram. Anybody who says any word starting with Ra, he trembles in fear already. Maricha. And when Ravana asked him to go to the Dandakaranya forest in the form of this golden magical deer, he said this, this was my plight. Maricha was saying this to Ravana. Don't in Hindi we say Panga mat lena Ram se. That means don't challenge Ram. You are doing a great mistake. You don't go and challenge him. You are playing with fire. So he is not an ordinary human that you think he is. His very name is sending chills down my spine. And I shudder since the day I was shot like that, the very name, anybody who not only the name Ram, but anybody who mentions any words and then there's a Ra sound, I am shuddering in fear. And you are asking me to go in front of him and try to cheat him? I will be killed. Then Ravana says, oh, you are worried about your life. Okay, if you are worried about dying, then I will kill you. If you don't go to Ram, if you are worried that Ram will kill you, then I will kill you. Then Maricha, being intelligent, at least he was touched by the arrow of Lord Ram, purification happened. So then he thought, either I have now my death is sure, either at the hands of Ram or at the hands of Ravan. Better to be killed by Ram. I will get moksha. He knows that Ram is Supreme Personality of Godhead. He came to know after he being shot like that. So, better to be killed by Ram. And then he went in the form of the golden deer and eventually he was killed by Ram. So, the demon of Maricha was scared of the name of the word, even of the letter Ra. Here also it is said, the sinful motives and guilts which are just like demons in our heart vanish from the heart at the very sound of Ra. And the door of the mouth in the form of Ma or Ram is attached to it in order to shut out those evils and prevent them from re-entering the heart. Ram. And of course Ram also means the supreme pleasure, this reservoir of all pleasure. These together give us Ram. Now, I have to actually look at the real Bengali to see that this was an authorized description by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, quoting Gopal Guru Goswami. I need to check the veracity of this because I don't want to be saying something because I am just believing whatever translation is given here and I am believing this to be true, and on that basis I am giving this class here. So I will just for the matter of checking the veracity, I will just check there also later on and see this description, this Ra and Ma, this shutting of mouth, because Prabhupada never explained like this. Prabhupada says reservoir of pleasure, the all attractive, Srimati Radharani, like that. So anyway, if it is true, of course we will accept it because Bhaktivinoda Thakur. These together give us Ram. The Puranas have further said that Krishna, who is cleverer than the cleverest, more witty than the greatest wit, who is the presiding deity of all spiritual pastimes and who is eternally engaged in spiritual dalliance with Sri Radha, is termed as Ram. He is always enjoying in the company of Radharani. So Krishna is also called Rama. And Prabhupada said it can refer to Ramachandra also, Balaram also. And Prabhupada said especially to Balaram. So there is nothing, no contradiction in all of this at all. Devotees who thirst for Prema are on the way to it. Wow, 10:40. When I'm saying it's going to go, it's still have a lot to go actually. You see? I'm not even anywhere close. I think we will stop it here and we will continue because I don't think we will just go until 1-2 a.m. I think, and then only we will stop. There's no end to this here. I think we have to continue on Saturday maybe, but at least we will stop it somewhere here. I think after the description of Hare, Krishna and Rama, where were we? I lost myself. Devotees who thirst for Prema are on the way to it chant and realize His holy name of Hare Krishna by counting on beads. While chanting and remembering the name, they incessantly remember His spiritual characteristics by explaining to the mind the meanings of the holy name. 1087.40. So, so I think this is actually going on a different part of the topic. So I think we will go through this. So we can remember this easily, termed as Rama. So the description of Hare and Krishna and Rama is finished, and from then on we can continue here from here on. So I think we will do on Saturday. So I think we have only completed half. I don't know if even we completed half. I don't know. I did not see the end of this chapter. I read a little bit more, but I did not see to the end of it. Okay, so I will take any questions. If you have any questions, please post them up in the comments and we will address them. And then we will end the session. Yeah, this is the Gaur Gopal Das's sacrilege of Bhagavad Gita reaction video. Actually, this was not the video I mentioned at 1.5.15. I did mention that verse 1.5.15 in this video also. But there's the second one. This is the third one. The second one I mentioned, I read through the purport and all of that as well. So anyway. Then we have Divya Mataji. Prabhuji, now that we know the name of Krishna is word incarnation of Krishna and more than anything for a devotee, in this process, if we subtly show lack of reverence to Vedas while learning that all the processes mentioned in Vedas like Karma Kanda are of less significant in front of Krishna, does it fall under one of the 10 offenses of chanting? No. We have to understand that the Vedas have been written for a purpose, but to elevate the people of that standard. But we don't accept. Just like we, in the song of Jayadeva Goswami, Buddha is glorified, but we don't worship Buddha. That does not mean we are disrespecting the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are not. Because he preached atheism. So that is not what we are against. We are against that actually, atheism. Although even the Lord preached atheism, we don't worship the Lord in that form. They're not, those who are worshipping Buddha, they cannot be considered devotees of the Supreme Lord because they worship atheism. So these are the nuances, So we understand the reason for those Karma Kanda section, but it is not ultimately purifying. The purifying factor is the association of a pure devotee, and by that the real purpose of the Vedas will be revealed to the prospective disciple. So it is not, of course, offense to consider the Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda as useless processes. Kevala Vishar Bhanda. Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, Kevala Vishar Bhanda. See, the thing is, we understand their place, but ultimately it's useless. Honestly, it's useless. Narada Muni himself condemned it. So, it's the real thing is bhakti, and the real Vedanta philosophy is actually bhakti, and that devotees hold it very dear. Vaishnavanam Priyam, Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Vaishnavanam Priyam, very dear to the devotees. They hold it very close to their heart. This Bhagavatam, because that is actually the real purpose of all religious principles. Others are all just like enticements, just to encourage them to do some beneficial religious ritual. But not the real benefit of performing those rituals. So in that way we have to understand. So is this the personified Vedas prayer 1087.40? There is no mention of the name though. Malati Priyamataji is asking. Actually, it's not this verse. That is about especially glorifying the name. I don't know where it is from though. So anyway, I think that's all the questions there are. I can see one of those reactions as angry face. Somebody's angry. Alright, so thank you very much for participating in such a long session. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Harināma Sankirtan ki jai, Haridas Thakur ki jai, Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrind ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.